Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere dark but not in the way you expect. You're not in a dungeon or a haunted castle. No, this darkness is quiet, creeping, and all too real. Tonight, you're going to be a regular villager, one of thousands, waking up on a morning that's just a little too still. Something's off. You can't name it yet, but your body knows before your brain does. The chickens aren't squawking. The neighbor's dog hasn't barked once. The usual chorus of carts shouting vendors and bells muted. The air is thick, not with fog, but with hesitation. And here's the kicker, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know where you're watching from and what time it is over there. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stretch. The straw mat beneath you crinkles like old paper. Your joints pop. There's a draft in the room, not cold exactly, but damp, and it smells faintly like turned milk. Outside, someone's cart rattles by two fast wheels clattering unevenly. You swing your legs off the bed and rub your eyes. The walls of your little house are just as you left them last night, and yet, it all feels wrong. You can't explain it, but the air feels like it's watching you. You slip on your rough wool tunic, still scratchy from the last wash with lye and river rocks. It never really softens, but you've learned to ignore the itching. Your boots, still caked with last week's mud, go on slowly. Your fingers fumble a bit. You blame sleep, but in truth your hands are shaking. Outside, the sky is pale. No birds sing, not even the crows. You pass old Marta's doorstep, usually strewn with crumbs for the pigeons, but today it's clean, eerily clean. Her shutters are closed tight. You pause. She's usually up by dawn, grumbling about her aching knees to anyone who'll listen. At the market, the silence becomes oppressive. There's a stall of pears already rotting. No one's guarding them. You pick one up. It's soft. The skin splits with a gentle squish, oozing brown syrup onto your palm. You wipe it on your tunic, disgusted, but the sticky feeling lingers. The baker's stand is empty. His oven's cold. The air should be filled with the smell of bread and smoke, but instead it smells like something else, sour, metallic almost. Sick. A child walks by, barefoot, eyes glazed over, trailing a piece of fabric in one hand. You try to smile at her, but she doesn't see you. A woman nearby mutters prayers under her breath, twisting a rosary made of dried beans. She flinches when you glance her way. That's when you realize everyone is looking at each other with suspicion, like they're expecting to see something. Something specific. A sign. You don't know what it is yet, but you can feel it like a splinter under your skin. There's talk, soft, hurried. Words like bad air and divine punishment. A few mutter about Genoese ships docking in the south, bringing more than silk and salt. But nobody speaks too loudly. It's like the town itself is afraid to be heard. Mainstream historians agree this was one of the first early warning signs in plague-hit towns, a subtle behavioral shift. Markets quieted. People avoided each other. Even before corpses lined the streets, something in the human subconscious picked up on danger. You walk past the tannery, where normally the stench of soaked hides and lime is strong enough to make a grown man gag. But even that's subdued. It's as if the very air has thickened into syrup, dulling every sound, every smell. You stop near the well. A group of women gathers, eyes darting ladles unused. They're not drawing water, they're waiting. For what you're not sure. A sign. A scream. A corpse. One of them looks up and meets your gaze. She doesn't blink, just stares. You nod politely, but she clutches her apron tighter and turns away. You return home empty-handed, and more unsettled than when you left. The breeze slips in through the crack in your door, and for a moment you swear it smells like damp cloth and lavender, like your mother's funeral years ago. You shut the door, bolt it, and sit in silence. Scholars still debate whether the earliest reactions to plague were driven more by superstition or instinct. Did villagers know something was coming? Or did their bodies simply register? Changes in the environment, absent noise, altered smells, the unusual behavior of animals. Either way you feel it. You don't know the word for plague yet. You don't even know you're in the middle of history. But something inside you has already curled up tight like a frightened animal. You lie back down, still dressed, not because you're tired, but because you want to feel like this is just another morning, one that'll pass like all the rest. But it won't. Not this time. You try to nap, but your eyelids twitch with the kind of sleep that never quite settles. Outside, something rustles against the shutters. Not a branch, not the wind. Maybe a rat. Maybe not. When you finally rise again, the sun is higher, but feels dimmer, like someone's placed a sheet over the sky. You step outside. A group of children are playing with sticks, jabbing at something behind a cart. You inch closer, slow, as if approaching a trapped dog. Then you see it, a dead rat, bloated and stiff. The kids scatter as soon as you make a noise. You glance around. Did anyone else see? You pick up a pebble and nudge the rat. Its side splits, leaking dark fluid. You back away. In hindsight, people would later realize what the rat meant. But not you. Not yet. The village cats are gone. That's what's really strange. No yowling, no slinking shadows on rooftops, no yellow eyes glowing in alleys, and the rats fat, fearless and fast. They run under your feet, sit on barrels, eat from broken sacks like they own the place. Where'd the cats go? You ask aloud. No one answers. You head toward the baker's house. Maybe he's sick. Maybe he overslept. Maybe he's lying face down in a pile of dough snoring. But his door is ajar. You push it open and call his name. No answer. Inside, it's warm. He always keeps the oven going. You step in. It smells wrong. The bread is half kneaded. A rolling pin is on the floor. And the cat that usually curls on his windowsill is gone. You freeze. A low skittering sound above you. Below, you crouch, then look under the table. Nothing. But when you glance toward the stairs, a pale tail slips out of sight. Not a cat's, longer, fatter. You back out slowly. There's a theory among some fringe historians that the disappearance of cats blamed as witches' familiars and killed en masse may have worsened the spread of plague. No cats meant more rats meant more fleas. And more fleas. Well, you're living that part. You return to the square. A priest is lighting candles at midday. Midday. He's muttering faster than usual, lips dry, hands trembling. He pulls a bundle of herbs from his robes and waves them like a wand, mumbling Latin, as if the words themselves are armor. You stand there watching him. His incense burns sharp and bitter, making your eyes sting. A few villagers kneel nearby. A woman sobs quietly. A man beside her scratches his wrist, fast, desperate, drawing lines through the skin. You look away. People have begun to wear strange things. Sprigs of rosemary in their collars. Sachets tied to belts. Coins boiled in vinegar before being touched. You think about tying herbs to your sleeve like the priest. Then again, he doesn't look much safer than you. You walk past the apothecary's shop. He's closed a sign, scrawled in uneven letters, out of supply. Pray instead. You didn't even know he could write. At the town's edge, a woman boards her own door shut. Thunk, 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 each nail hammered with trembling hands. Her husband pleads on the other side, trying to coax her out. Please, Agnes, it's just a cough. But she won't listen. You stop and watch. She catches your eye through the crack in the shutters. Doesn't blink, just hammers. When you get home, you bolt the door again, then slide a chair under the handle for good measure. You sit by the hearth not for warmth, but because the flicker of flame makes the silence seem less final. And that's when it hits you, you're starting to smell things that aren't there. Ashes, honey, blood, wine, scents from memories. Your mind's trying to anchor itself, but nothing's stable now. There's a knock on the wall, your neighbor, tapping in a code you both learned during the last famine. You press your ear to the stone. Are you well? 3 taps. You reply. Yes. 2 taps. Then silence. You'd rather lie than explain that the world feels like it's slowly holding its breath. Experts still debate whether early plague survivors truly recognized the link between rats and illness, or if their instincts simply drove them toward fire isolation and incense without understanding why. It's hard to study fear when it wears 1,000 masks. You crawl into bed again, but you can't shake the sensation of motion in the walls, in the floorboards. You pull your blanket tight, as if fabric can protect you from fate. And somewhere, maybe across town, maybe closer, you hear the first bell. Not a church bell, a handbell, rung by a man walking the streets, crying out words you hope never come near your home. Bring out your dead. Soft at first, then again louder. Bring out your dead. You clutch the blanket tighter. Whisper 1 in the comments below, if this tale charms your heart, or 2, if it sends shivers down your spine. You sleep in short bursts now, not because you're tired, but because your brain has started keeping its own kind of night watch. Every creak of timber, every gust of wind, every cough from outside jerks you upright with the same question rattling around your skull. Is it here yet? You don't know exactly what it is, but you know it's coming. Morning again, or something close to it. The sky's more yellow than blue now, like a bruise nearing its final stage. You step outside just as a scream cracks through the silence. It's sharp, close. You follow it slowly at first, then faster your legs, remembering the shape of panic. You round the corner by the miller's shop and nearly stumble over a small crowd gathered around an alley entrance. People are murmuring. Hands cover mouths. Someone crosses themselves. You push forward just enough to see. It's the baker's boy. You recognize the tuft of straw-colored hair, the patched tunic, the little shoe with one broken lace. He's lying on his side mouth, open eyes, glassy skin pale, except for one patch his neck, which is swollen and dark like a plum left in the sun. No one touches him. Not even his mother, who stands nearby in a frozen kind of grief, whispering his name, as if she's summoning him from a dream. Tomas, Tomas. Get up, darling. Just get up. But her feet don't move an inch toward him. You look at her hands, white-knuckled and twisted in on themselves. Not grief, fear. And now you're afraid, too. This is the first body you've seen that isn't wrapped, buried, or gone. It's fresh. It's sudden. And it's someone you saw running errands just yesterday, grinning through a mouthful of jam. A man in a heavy coat steps forward and sets a piece of fabric over the boy's face. Not gently, more like he's tossing a rag over something foul. Then he walks off, not even glancing back. No one follows. They all stand in place a moment longer, eyes heavy and still as if trying to decide whether to speak or flee. Then they start to scatter. You stay. You remember him stealing a roll and getting cuffed for it. You remember him hiding in barrels and playing dead just for fun. You remember him laughing. And now he's lying in the dirt face, covered life, drained like water through cupped hands. Scholars remain divided on whether the plague's abruptness helped or hurt communities psychologically. Was a fast death less terrifying because it ended quickly, or more so because there was no time to prepare? No rituals, no farewells. You walk home differently, slower. You count your steps. You glance over your shoulder even when you hear nothing. The world feels thinner, stretched like parchment near the fire. Every cough becomes a cannon blast, every sneeze a dagger. When you get home, you scrub your hands with soap that stings. You boil water and add rosemary. Not because it does anything, but because it smells clean, and you need clean. You open the shutters for the first time in days, just enough to let the wind in, but all you get is the scent of smoke vinegar and something you won't name. That evening, you hear a commotion by the chapel. You inch closer, careful to stay hidden in the shadows of the stone wall. A small group is gathered, 6 or 7 figures in dark robes. Not priests, not townsfolk. They carry a long, narrow cart. You can't see what's in it, but it groans under the weight. One man steps forward, young, but his face is lined like leather. He throws open the chapel doors without knocking. No ceremony, no hesitation. Inside, candles flicker wildly, as if suddenly disturbed. Another body, maybe more than one. They chant softly, not holy hymns, but something rhythmic repeated over and over until it sounds like breathing. You don't understand the words, but you understand the fear. Some fringe records suggest secret cults or local groups emerged in plague towns, blending folk ritual and desperation into eerie, undocumented customs. Few lasted, fewer were remembered. But occasionally stories slip through. You slip away too. That night, sleep becomes a patchwork quilt, stitched together from memory, noise, and dread. You dream of Tomas, not as you last saw him, but whole. He offers you a piece of bread. You reach out, and the bread turns to ash. You wake with a start. In the darkness, you hear someone sobbing, not from your home, but nearby. The walls are thin. It could be Marta, or the tanner's wife, or someone else entirely. You listen to it, not trying to stop it. It feels human, and right now that's enough. The next morning doesn't feel like morning. The sun rises like it's ashamed to be seen, pale, quiet, thin as gruel. You open the door slowly, half expecting the sky to fall in on you. But everything is still standing, except for the baker's stall. That's gone. Someone took it down during the night. Planks, broken flour scattered like snow across the stones. There's a red smear near the edge of the well, but it's been mostly scrubbed. Still, it's there. You step around it. The priest is back in the square, waving his incense like he's trying to shoo away the apocalypse. His robe is stained, and he's sweating, even though the air is cool. He keeps mumbling the same Latin phrase again and again until it starts to sound like nonsense. People gather, keeping a good 10 feet apart from one another. No one says the word, but everyone knows. It's plague, pestilence, mortality. You don't even know which name to use, but it doesn't matter, it's here. You see Marta there, hunched like a burlap sack, clutching her rosary so tight the beads bite into her skin. She nods once at you, slow and heavy like it hurts. You nod back. Suddenly one of the men steps forward, young, nervous, barely old enough to shave, and asks the priest if holy water will protect them. The priest doesn't answer. He just flicks a few drops toward the crowd. You feel one land on your cheek. It burns a little. A group of women begin lighting bundles of herbs and waving the smoke around like protective cloaks. The scent is sharp lavender sage, maybe thyme. It doesn't help. You can still smell what lies beneath rot, fear, sweat, and the unmistakable hint of iron. That's when someone else stumbles into the square. It's Tomas's mother. Her eyes are bloodshot, her dress torn, her feet bare. She screams not words, but something primal. A mother's howl. The crowd parts around her like water. She rushes to the well, shouting about false prayers and useless priests. She hurls her rosary into the water. A man tries to stop her. She spits in his face. He lets go. Everyone watches, and then they turn away. Experts still debate whether community cohesion broke down entirely during plague years, or merely shifted into different forms. Muted rituals, shared silence, new boundaries born from necessity. Either way, people stopped reaching out. Back home, you boil another pot of water and drop herbs in it. You don't drink it, just breathe the steam. You rub garlic on your sleeves. You hang a clove above your door. You line your windowsill with salt. None of it makes you feel better, but not doing it feels worse. You decide to visit the cobbler. He always has news and gossip. Maybe he knows if the town council is planning anything. You knock, but there's no answer. You knock again. Then you push the door. Inside, it's dark. The chair is overturned. The last pair of shoes is half finished. The leather, stiff and curling. You call his name. Nothing. Then you see it just barely in the corner. A shape, slumped, covered with a heavy wool cloak. You back out slowly. You leave the door wide open. You walk back through the square where the priest has stopped chanting. He just sits now, incense in one hand, the other dangling limp at his side. On impulse, you duck into the alley behind the butcher's house. You don't know why. Maybe because it's hidden. Maybe because you need to be somewhere quiet. That's when you see the drawings. Crude figures scratched into the stone wall, circles with X's through them, rats with wings, a man with his hands on fire. It's all jagged, chaotic. It looks like something a child or a madman would draw. You touch the wall lightly. The stone is warm. There's a whispered theory, rare, unsettling, that in some villages, survivors reported hearing things from the walls. That grief and death soaked so deep into the mortar even silence could scream. You step back into the light. Tap 3 in the comments below if this story makes you smile, or 4 if it leaves you chilled. You hear music faint and broken. Someone's playing a lute. You follow the sound to the blacksmith's courtyard. It's his apprentice, barely 15 eyes, hollow fingers trembling on the strings. The music is awful, clunky, out of tune. But he's trying. He plays and plays until a string snaps. He doesn't stop. Just hums the rest. You drop a copper coin at his feet. He doesn't look up. You keep walking. As you reach your doorstep, you see something new. A smear of red paint on your neighbor's door. A crooked symbol. Not a cross, more like a mark. You recognize it from the alley drawings. You go inside and lock everything. That night, the wind rattles your shutters like a drunk knocking for entry. You lie in bed, eyes open, blanket clutched, high staring at the ceiling. It creaks in time with your heartbeat. You don't know if it's the house breathing or something on the roof. You don't check. At some point, you drift off, if only to escape your own thoughts. But in your dream, you're still in the village, still walking through the square, still surrounded by whispers, but everyone's mouths are shut. Just open eyes and silent stares. You wake with a gasp. Outside you hear hammering again, not distant this time. Just across the lane, you peek through a slit in the shutter. It's your neighbour Ellen, the candlemaker. She's boarding her own door shut, one plank after another, nails clamped in her teeth. She works quickly, tears streaming down her cheeks, dripping onto her apron. You'd call out to her, ask if she's all right, but the look in her eyes answers everything. It's not about safety. It's about surrender. She finishes the last plank, steps back, and just stares at it. No prayers, no goodbyes. Then she turns, vanishes into her home, and you hear the bolt slide from the inside. That sound, the finality of it, sticks in your ears longer than the hammering. Historians often cite these acts of self-isolation as acts of courage or madness, or maybe both. In some towns, entire families locked themselves in, sometimes out of fear, sometimes to avoid being locked in by others. You sit at your table chewing a crust of stale bread. It tastes like sawdust. The air is thick again, but not just with scent, with memory. You remember Ellen's laugh from just a week ago, bright and sharp as a snapped twig. You remember her dancing at midsummer barefoot and bold. And now she's a shadow behind her own door, a thud from outside. You jolt. Another. You step into your boots and grab the broom. Not a weapon, but it feels better than nothing. Out in the lane, a bundle lies near the well. You approach carefully, eyes darting. It's not laundry. It's a body. Not Thomas. Not the cobbler. Someone older. A man. He's curled up like a question mark, hands over his stomach, jaw slack. His eyes are open but unseeing. You don't recognize him. No one else is around. Just you and the morning fog. You look down at him, not knowing what to do. Touching him feels dangerous. Leaving him there feels worse. You grab the hem of your tunic, pull it up over your hand, and gently reach forward. You close his eyes. There. That's something. You glance at Ellen's window. No movement. That's when you hear it wheels on stone. A cart. It creaks up the lane slow as molasses in winter. Two men pull it. Neither speaks. Both wear masks, long-nosed like birds, beaked and strange. Leather coats, gloves, boots. Their eyes peer out from behind glass circles. They look like monsters from a child's drawing. They see you. One nods. You step back. They lift the man, clumsy, mechanical, and place him on the cart beside two others. One wrapped in cloth, one not. No words, just work. Then one of them pulls a small satchel from his belt, tosses a powder on the ground where the body had lain. It smells sharp, like crushed flowers and vinegar. They move on. You watch them disappear around the bend, the cart creaking like old bones. The plague doctors. They're new. No one knows where they came from or who pays them. Some say they're trained in distant cities. Others say they're just men brave or foolish enough to pick up the job. You've heard they carry herbs in the beaks of their masks, supposed to purify the air. Some whisper the masks are cursed. Others say they hide their faces because they've already died once. The truth, no one knows. Scholars still debate whether plague doctors were effective or symbolic helpers, or just terrifying signs that death was officially in the neighborhood. You return home and bolt your door. Later that day, someone knocks. Not hard, just once. You freeze. A pause. Another knock. Softer. You whisper, "Who is it?" Silence. Then footsteps fading. You wait 10 whole minutes before checking. Nothing there. Just a small bunch of lavender left on the ground. The lavender sits untouched on your doorstep until dusk. You stare at it through a crack in the shutters, too wary to open the door, too curious not to watch. Its tiny purple blossoms look out of place on the dirt, like a ribbon on a corpse. Eventually you crack the door open just long enough to snatch it. The stems are bound with a scrap of twine. Nothing else, no note, no sign of who left it. You sniff it cautiously. It smells sweet, yes, but something clings underneath. Not rot, not vinegar, something off. You hang it by the door anyway. You need something there, even if it's just ritual. A few hours later the bell rings again. This time it's closer. You blow out your candle and press your face to the shutter's crack. There they are, 3 men in black cloaks moving through the lane like shadows that grew legs. They carry long sticks with hooked ends poking at doors and pushing back curious children. Their masks glow faintly in the lamplight, long curved beaks of lacquered leather. The eye holes glint like coins in water. One of them carries a sack filled with what you guess are herbs. The smell reaches you, even from here, sharp astringent, like crushed mint and mouldy wood. One of them stops at a house across the square. You recognize it, it's Marta's. They don't knock, they enter. You wait. Time drips past, thick and slow. When they emerge, one of them carries something heavy slung over his shoulder, wrapped in linen. The shape is unmistakable. You clutch the window frame. They move on. By morning, more red crosses appear daubed in thick strokes across doors. Your street, once full of chatter and chickens, now hums with absence. You count the houses. 1, 2, 5, 7. 7 marked now. The priest is back, but he's different. He doesn't chant anymore. He walks in silence, incense swinging like a pendulum. The smoke trails behind him, leaving a faint silver line through the village. You follow him not closely, just far enough to watch. He enters the chapel. You wait and wait. When you step inside later, the air is thick and sour. Dozens of candles burn low. The pews are empty. On the altar is a loaf of bread half eaten, and a bowl of what might have been wine. Flies gather at the rim. There's no priest, just silence. Fringe tales say some priests vanished during the plague, not from illness, but from losing faith. Left quietly in the night, robes on the floor, candles still lit. A few were found later, wandering hills, mumbling prayers in forgotten tongues. You sit in the pew for a moment, not to pray, just to breathe somewhere. No one else is breathing. Then you hear the scraping from behind the altar. You rise, heart hammering, and step around the side. Nothing. Just a trail of ash leading to the rear door. You leave through the front. Outside, the air tastes metallic. You cough once, then twice. Harder. You freeze. Coughing is dangerous now. You look around. No one's there. You wait. 1 minute. 2. Nothing more comes. You exhale slowly, as if breath itself might betray you. Later, a rumor makes its rounds. A man in the next village buried his daughter before she died, just in case. You don't want to believe it, but the story sticks like a fishbone in your throat. Scholars remain divided on whether early plague treatments leaned more toward preventive cruelty or desperate logic. Was a man who buried the living evil, or simply terrified? That night, you hear a voice from your wall again. Not a ghost, not a hallucination. Just the old woman next door. She's talking to someone, or maybe to no one. You press your ear to the stone. I can still feel him in the bed, she whispers. He's gone, but the pillow's still warm. You close your eyes. Sleep is a patchwork thing now, frayed and strange. You dream of hands reaching through your shutters, not to grab, but to knock, endlessly gently, like they forgot how to stop. You wake up with your door unlatched. You know you locked it. You relatch it. Sit against it. Wait. Morning arrives like a stranger you didn't invite, quiet, stiff, and full of bad news. You sit by your cold hearth, chewing a piece of salted turnip so tough it feels like eating candle wax. You're not hungry. You just need to do something. Anything. A knock comes soft, hesitant. Your body goes still. Not the door. The side wall. You crawl over and press your ear against it. 3 knocks. Then silence. A beat later, 3 more. You tap twice in return. Yes. Then nothing. Not even footsteps. You wait a full 10 minutes before getting up again. It feels like a ritual now. Fear, knock, pause, reply. Dread. You shuffle through your house, looking for something, anything, to make you feel useful. Your cousin's bedding is still stacked in the corner. He left it behind when he fled to the countryside weeks ago. Said he'd be back by harvest. You haven't heard from him since. You sniff it. It smells faintly of sweat, old hay, and something worse, stale sickness. You know you should burn it. Everyone says to burn anything that's been near fever, especially bedding. Cloth carries death like fingers carry dirt. You grab the bundle, haul it onto your back, and stagger out the door like a mule with too much guilt. Outside, the sky is heavy with clouds, but not rain. Just wait. You walk past 5 shuttered houses and 2 that are marked. The smell of firewood and damp mold follows you, clinging to the folds of your tunic. You pass the square. It's emptier than usual. A lone dog pads by ribs, sharp against its skin. At the edge of town, you reach the pyre. It's a wide pit, dug shallow and dry. The earth here is scorched. Bits of ash cling to the stones like snow that forgot how to melt. You step up to the edge, breath shallow. Other bundles are already there, some cloth, some straw one, with what looks disturbingly like hair sticking out from the folds. You don't ask. You don't look long. You place your cousin's bedding on top. You want to say something, a goodbye, a blessing, anything, but all you say is, sorry. You back away, light a torch from the brazier left nearby, and toss it onto the pile. It catches faster than you expect. The flames rise with a roar like they've been hungry. The heat hits your face hard. You take 2 steps back. 3. Then you turn and walk away. Your hands shake the whole way home. Later that day, smoke still lingers over the rooftops. A thin, grey halo. You stare at it through the window. You think of your cousin. Think of his jokes, his missing front tooth, the way he always sang when nervous. He was probably already dead when he left. You just didn't know it yet. Mainstream historians agree that burning bedding and clothing became one of the few widespread public health practices during the plague years, one of the few things that actually helped. But no one wanted to do it. Every burn felt like a burial. That night, as you tend your tiny hearth, you hear singing. Soft, ragged, off-key. You lean toward the window and squint. There, just beyond the square, a figure sits near the well, singing into the dark like it owes him something. You step outside, barefoot, feet numb against the cold stone. The man is rocking slightly, arms wrapped around himself. His cloak is thin, his boots mismatched. He sees you, and his face splits into a grin. "Lovely evening," he says. You don't answer, you just stare. "You lost someone too?" he asks. You nod. "Same," he says. "Many someones." He goes back to humming. You can't place the tune. Maybe there is no tune. You return home. You scrub your hands again twice, then 3 times. You boil water and add herbs, though most are gone now. All that's left is a pinch of dried sage, and something that might be thyme. You sip. Bitter, hot, pointless. Fringe accounts from plague years mention fire watchers, volunteers, or sometimes paid fools whose only job was to burn the belongings of the dead. Some say they went mad from the smoke. Others say they came to enjoy it. You wonder which you're becoming. The fire in your hearth crackles once loud and sharp, like a bone breaking. You don't sleep that night. Just sit and wait. You don't remember falling asleep, but you wake up to bells. Not 1, not 2, all of them. The chapel's tower bell clangs loud and long, matched by the smaller handbells of the street callers. Their tones trip over each other, overlapping in a chorus of warning and grief. It's not a rhythm, it's a dirge made of iron and urgency. You sit up, blinking at the dim light, spilling through the shutter slats. The bells keep ringing and ringing. At first they frightened you. Now you're numb to them. They've rung so often these past days that they feel less like signals and more like a heartbeat you didn't ask for. And that's when it hits you. You stop noticing them. Somewhere between the 2nd corpse and the 7th marked door, the bells became background noise. Just another sound to fold into your day, like the scrape of a spoon or the creak of your roof. You stand slow and sore. Your muscles ache. You haven't moved much. Fear does that. It turns you to furniture. You open your door and step into the grey morning. The street looks dipped in soot. Ash clings to everything. Even the trees look tired. A small crowd gathers near the chapel. You drift toward them. Not because you want to, but because not going feels worse. At the centre lies a figure someone collapsed on the steps. You can't see who. The priest stands over them, one hand raised the other, clutching his incense. He's trembling. The incense swings unevenly now, not like a ritual, but like a man trying to remember a habit. He mumbles. Latin again. You don't bother translating it. Nobody does anymore. It's not about meaning. It's about repetition. Like how people hum when they're scared. The person on the steps doesn't move. Someone in the crowd whispers, "He was alive this morning." Someone else replies, "He wasn't an hour ago." A third voice, "He coughed yesterday." A woman retches nearby. She stumbles off, clutching her mouth. Everyone gives her space. No one says anything to her. Mainstream records show that during plague waves, public deaths increased to the point where bodies were left in streets for hours or days until someone came for them. The rituals got shorter. The silences got longer. The bell rings again. This time the sound cuts through you. It keeps going. 15 strikes, then 20, then more. You count. 32. The priest's voice cracks mid-sentence. He drops the incense. It rolls down the chapel steps and lands in a puddle. He doesn't pick it up. That afternoon you take a walk, if only to remind yourself your legs still work. The roads are slick with old rain. Every door you pass feels like a question. Every window a withheld answer. You stop at the butcher's stall. It's been abandoned for days. The meat's gone, but something darker stains the chopping block. Not blood. Too black. You step around it. Farther on you see children drawing in the mud with sticks. Not laughing, not talking, just drawing. One carves a circle with little lines coming off it like a sun. Or a germ. You don't ask. There's talk now that the bells are cursed. That each ring calls death one step closer. Some people plug their ears. Others sit and count every chime, waiting for it to stop. Like a countdown no one can read. You wonder who decides when the bell stops. That night, you light every candle you have. The glow fills your small room, softens the shadows. You almost forget the silence outside. Almost. You eat dried apples and stale bread. You chew slowly, eyes fixed on the door. A knock. You drop the cup in your hand. It clatters. The knock comes again. You don't move. It stops. You wait 10 heartbeats, then 20, then 100. You crack the door. Nothing there. But on the ground, chalk marks. 3 little circles drawn side by side. They weren't there this morning. You wipe them away with your foot. Then wash your hands 5 times. Fringe accounts describe bell blindness, a condition noted in some survivors who simply stopped reacting to auditory cues. They didn't respond to bells, cries, or even screams. Some said their brains just closed the door to noise. You think about that as you blow out the candles one by one. When the room is dark again, you listen. But the bells are still ringing, and you don't even flinch. They hand you a spade. No instructions, no ceremony. Just the heavy wood in your hands, and a vague nod toward the edge of the field. You follow. The man leading you doesn't speak. He's one of the plague workers, hooded, gloved, always looking at the ground like it owes him something. His boots crunch over frost and ash. You keep your distance, half from fear, half from respect. There's something about him that says, I see things no one wants to see. The field lies at the edge of town where wheat once grew. Now it's all mud and shallow trenches. You count at least 4 open pits, some already half filled with bundles. Not coffins, just shapes, wrapped in linen or cloth, tied with rope like overstuffed sacks. You swallow hard. You grip the spade tighter. There's no one else around. Just you, the silent man, and the dead. He gestures to the earth. You dig. The soil is cold, heavy with last week's rain. It clumps against the blade, clings to your boots, refuses to yield. You dig anyway. Time passes in shovelfuls. 10, 20, 40. When you pause to wipe your brow, your hands are blistered. You welcome the sting. Pain is familiar. The rest of this isn't. Behind you, the man begins dragging the next body toward the pit. You don't look at the face. You focus on your hole. You shovel faster, as if depth can somehow make this easier. Mainstream historical accounts from plague times often describe mass burial fields, sometimes euphemistically called God's acres. But there was nothing holy about them, just dirt, sweat, and the silence of a job no one wanted. The man finishes his task. You glance up just in time to see the cloth shift. Maybe a breeze. Maybe something else. You look away. Another body comes. This one's smaller. A child. You freeze. Your spade slips from your hand and hits the earth with a soft thump. You leave it there. I can't, you whisper. The man doesn't respond. Just drags the bundle past you. You walk away. You don't go far. Just beyond the edge of the field where a scraggly tree leans like it's too tired to stand straight. You sit with your back against it, knees pulled to your chest. Your breath fogs the air. A few feet away, a crow lands on a fence post. It watches you, tilts its head, hops closer. Then another joins it. You mutter under your breath. If you're here for me, wait your turn. The birds don't answer, but they don't leave either. Later the man joins you. He says nothing, just sits. His gloves are caked in mud and darker things. He doesn't remove his mask. But after a long while he speaks, his voice dry, cracked, like parchment rubbed raw. You get used to it, he says. You don't believe him. Not really, but you nod. Fringe sources suggest that some towns forced survivors to participate in burial efforts, not out of punishment, but because there was simply no one else. Priests, doctors, even gravediggers gone. So the task fell to whoever still had hands. The man stands and walks away. You don't follow. You stay by the tree until the sun drops low, painting the fields in grey and gold. When you return home, your hands still smell of soil. You wash them with vinegar. Twice. 3 times. The scent never fully leaves. That night, you dream of digging. Only this time, you're the one being buried. You see the spade. You see the dirt falling. You open your mouth to scream, but it's filled with dust. Your hands are tied. Your eyes are open. You wake with a gasp, clawing at your blanket. There's dirt under your nails. You don't remember how it got there. The smell follows you. It clings to your sleeves, your hair, the folds of your tunic. No matter how many times you scrub with vinegar or boil handfuls of mint in water, it's still there, the stench of decay and fire and something sour beneath it all. It lives in your nostrils now. It's part of your breath. You burn herbs in a dish, waft the smoke through your tiny home. You hang sprigs of lavender above the windows. You chew cloves until your tongue goes numb. Nothing works. The smell is stronger than superstition. You try sleeping with a sachet of rosemary tucked into your collar. You wake coughing. Your throat burns. Your eyes sting. You tear it off and throw it across the room. It lands with a soft thud and spills dry leaves onto the floor like brittle confetti. You sit on the edge of your bed and stare at the flame in the hearth. It dances like it doesn't know people are dying. A sound outside. Not a bell, not a knock. Laughter. Not the cheerful kind. Not even the mad kind. This is the hollow chuckle of someone who forgot they still had a voice. It fades, quickly swallowed by the fog. You stay inside. Somewhere down the road a dog barks, once sharp, panicked, then nothing. You pull the blanket tighter around your shoulders and wish you believed in protective charms. You remember when Marta gave you a little satchel years ago filled with thyme, salt and a feather. Keep it under your pillow, she said. It wards off sickness. You tossed it the next day. You'd give anything to have it now. Scholars still debate whether the widespread use of herbal pouches and sweet-smelling concoctions had any real effect, or if it was simply an act of psychological defense. Something to do when there was nothing to do. You step outside to clear your head. The night is thick and heavy. The air feels warmer than it should, like the breath of something large and sleeping. You walk down the lane, slowly, softly, like noise might wake the dead. Near the well you pass a pile of rags. You keep walking, then freeze. That wasn't there yesterday. You back up. Not rags. A body. Barely visible, wrapped in what looks like a tablecloth. The feet stick out bare thin, with one toe oddly curled. You look away. Keep walking. At the edge of the lane, you see the tanner's house. The door is wide open. You hesitate. The smell hits before you step inside. It's thick, tangible. It has weight. You step in anyway. The table is overturned. The floor is soaked in something dark. A shoe lies near the hearth, neatly placed. There's a sound from the back room, a soft groan. You leave. You run. Back home, you wash your hands in vinegar again. You rinse your mouth. You change clothes. You stare at the door for an hour, waiting for a knock that never comes. That night, the dreams return. You're walking through your house, but it's not your house. The walls are damp. The window's gone. Smoke curls in from under the floorboards. You try to open the door, but it crumbles in your hands like paper. Then you hear it. The bells. Not outside. Inside your skull. You wake with a nosebleed. Fringe accounts mention phantom rot, a condition where survivors reported smelling death long after it passed. Some said it was in their clothes. Others claimed it lived in their lungs. Most never recovered their sense of smell. You wipe the blood from your lip, toss the cloth into the hearth, and watch it burn. The smell remains. It always does. It's midday when someone finally asks the question out loud. Where's the butcher? You're standing near the fountain, watching the wind scatter dry leaves across the stones, when an old man murmurs it, barely more than a thought turned into sound. You glance at him. He's talking to no one, really, but it sticks. You realize you haven't seen the butcher in days. No shouting from his stall, no blood trailing down the gutter. No thick smell of fat and iron drifting through the square. His shop is shuttered. You walk by slowly, casual but curious. The windows are boarded. The lock is new. No one answers when you knock. Later in the tavern now, less a place of drink than a whispering post, you hear someone else bring it up. He left, says one man. Went north to the monastery. Ran out of pigs, mutters another. Closed up for good. A third leans forward and says nothing at all. Just raises one eyebrow and traces a finger across his throat. The others go quiet. Fringe rumours say some butchers took desperate steps when supply ran dry, serving meat that didn't quite look like lamb or ox. Some towns even accused them of cooking the dead. The truth is buried with the rest. That night, curiosity gets the better of you. You light a candle, slip into your cloak, and head toward the butcher's shop. The streets are empty, more than usual. Even the rats seem quieter. The back of his shop has a door mostly hidden behind stacked barrels. You push one aside, slowly, carefully. The door creaks open. Inside, cold air and silence. You step in. Everything smells wrong. Not rot, not blood, just too clean. The floor has been scrubbed, bleached even. But in the cracks between the boards, something dark lingers. Something the scrubbing couldn't quite reach. You find hooks, dozens of them, empty, a few stained. One still swings slightly like it was only recently disturbed. You step into the back room. Tables, knives, a pile of linens in the corner, a bucket that's still damp. You spot something under the table, just a glint. You crouch, pull it out. A coin, foreign, Genoese maybe, not local, and sticky. You pocket it before you think better of it. As you rise, you hear a soft thud upstairs. You freeze. No one should be here. You back away slowly, candle shaking, your own breath loud in your ears. Another thud, followed by dragging. You don't wait to find out what it is. You leave, fast. You don't run. Running makes noise. You get home, bolt the door, check it twice, then sit on the floor staring at your hands. The coin is still there. You scrub it clean hard enough to scrape away the ridges. You wrap it in cloth and hide it under the hearthstone. You don't want to know what it bought. The next morning the shop is boarded tighter. No one speaks his name. Mainstream sources rarely detail what happened to absent tradesmen during plague years. Sometimes they fled. Sometimes they died. Sometimes they simply stopped showing up, and people learned not to ask. You walk past the shop 3 more times that week. Each time you swear you hear something moving inside. But no one opens the door. It starts with a tickle in your throat. You cough once, then twice. Quiet into your sleeve. You tell yourself it's the smoke, or maybe the dust from the tanner's road. You drink a little boiled water, swish it around your mouth. The irritation fades, then returns. By midday you've coughed at least a dozen times. You start to watch people's reactions more than your own. Each time you clear, your throat heads turn slightly subtly, not accusing, just alert. You become hyper-aware of your own body. Every swallow feels suspicious. Every breath feels too shallow or too deep. Your skin prickles under your tunic like it's thinking about breaking a fever. You hold your breath when others walk by, just in case. When you pass Ellen's boarded-up door, you wonder what she'd do if she heard you cough. Would she add more planks? Would she scream? You cough again, this time into your elbow. You see a curtain twitch 2 houses down. In town, things are quieter than ever. No one lingers. People grab their turnips, bread or vinegar, and retreat home like guilty thieves. Everyone moves with short, nervous steps, hands wrapped in cloth, faces turned away. The market's rhythm is gone, replaced by a kind of soft choreography of fear. In the chapel square, someone sneezes. The sound echoes. Everyone freezes. Then the circle around them widens like a tide pulling back from shore. Even the priest, who's now taken to muttering with his hands, pressed to his own temples, edges away. He whispers something about unclean winds and drops his incense without noticing. You hurry home, chest tight. That night you sit by the hearth chewing dried sage leaves like they're medicine. You boil water, add vinegar. You sip and try not to gag. It tastes like desperation. You try to sleep. Your dreams are feverish, but not from fever. In one, you're coughing up coins instead of phlegm, silver ones. They clink on the floor and roll into dark corners. In another, people cough not from illness, but from trying to speak their words, choking in their throats. You wake up dry-mouthed and sweating. You cough again. The sound feels louder in the still room. Just one. Then you wait. No more come. Experts still debate whether the psychological toll of plague symptoms, real or imagined, was as dangerous as the disease itself. Fear magnifies everything. A tickle becomes a death sentence. A sigh becomes a warning. You decide to leave the house for a walk, just a short one. On the way to the well, you spot two women talking quiet, close. One keeps looking over her shoulder. The other's crying, wiping her face with a sleeve that's already soaked through. You cough. They stop talking. One grabs the other's wrist and pulls her away. No goodbye. No glance back. You stand there breath held, wondering what they saw. You sit on the stone lip of the well, touch the coin in your pocket, the Genoese one from the butcher's. It's clean now, still strange. You wonder how many hands it passed through, and how many of those hands are now in the ground. A man walks by. He looks at you. Then he changes direction. No greeting. You go home and shut the door with a little more force than usual. Later you look in the mirror. Well, in the polished metal you use as a mirror. You check your eyes, your tongue. You press your neck for swelling. Nothing. No boils. No heat. Still you keep checking. A dozen times before bed. You don't cough again that night. But you dream of people backing away from you. Their faces blur. Their mouths stay closed. Their eyes are wide with something between pity and fear. You wake up cold. In the silence of dawn you whisper to no one, "I don't think I'm sick." And for the first time the words sound like a lie. It appears overnight, painted in thick, wet strokes across your neighbour's door. A red cross. It drips down the wood like wax still fresh enough to glisten in the morning haze. You don't go near it. No one does. The house is silent. The shutters are sealed. The only sound is the faint, rhythmic barking of a dog tied 2 doors down. Even it sounds subdued. You stand at your own threshold and stare at the symbol, trying to understand what changed. Yesterday that house looked like any other. No coughing, no screams, just a quiet hush like all the others. And now, to marked. Someone must have come in the night. The bell ringers, a plague watcher. Or maybe someone inside put the mark there themselves. A warning, or a cry for help. You retreat inside, latch your door. Later you see another cross, then another. One at the weaver's, one near the old granary. Each one makes your chest feel tighter, like you're being slowly wrapped in rope. You boil water again. Pour it over sage, thyme, whatever's left. You drink even though your stomach twists. You light a sprig of rosemary and wave the smoke toward the window, as if it can hold off fate. Midday brings a knock, not on your door 2 houses down. You peek out through the shutters. A man stands there in a brown cloak. Not masked, not robed like the plague workers, just plain, simple. He's holding a small jar. The door opens just a crack. A pale hand reaches out. He places the jar in it, then bows. The door shuts. He walks away. You step outside, curiosity stronger than caution. He's already disappearing down the alley. You look where he stood. A small trail of ash leads away from the doorstep. You glance again at the red cross. Still wet. Scholars remain divided on whether these red crosses were mandated symbols or community gestures. Some towns required them by law. Others painted them in superstition or silent ritual. But once they appeared, they were a mark no one questioned. That evening you talk through the wall again. Not by choice, your neighbour starts tapping. 3 knocks. You hesitate. Then tap twice. There's a pause. Then a whisper, so faint you almost miss it. "It's my wife," he says. "She hasn't moved since morning." You don't know what to say, so you say nothing. He taps again. "If it spreads to me, you won't let them burn us. Both, will you?" You close your eyes. You tap once. Then crawl back under your blanket and pull it over your ears as if fabric can silence guilt. Later someone paints a cross on his door too. Not in front of anyone. It's just there by dawn. Fringe stories tell of people who paid strangers to mark their doors while they slept, believing that if they got ahead of the sickness might pass them by, like fooling death with an early offering. That night you hear voices outside, low, tense. You crack your window open just enough to hear. "Only saw 1 boil," someone says. "Doesn't matter," another replies. "That's enough." Then silence. Then footsteps. Then paint. You lie awake wondering what would happen if someone painted your door. Would you stop them? Would you help? Would you even know it happened? The next morning you check. No mark. Not yet. The jar smells like vinegar and rosemary. You didn't ask for it. It simply appeared, placed near your door in the early hours. You open it cautiously, half expecting something strange inside. But it's just liquid. Murky. Sharp on the nose. Tangy enough to make your eyes water. You don't know if it's meant to be medicine or warning. You leave it on the table. Later, a knock at the window. A child. Barefoot. Eyes hollow like forgotten wells. She points to the jar. You open the door just a crack. Plague water, she says. Her voice is thin. Drink it or pour it at your door. Mama says it keeps bad spirits out. You nod. She vanishes before you can ask her name. You stare at the jar for a long time. Then you drink. One small sip. It tastes like wet socks and regret. Later you smear a few drops across your doorframe just in case. The town is filled with odd rituals now. People tie ribbons to fences. They crush herbs into powder and throw them at crossroads. A man on the western lane keeps singing the same 3-note chant every night at sunset. No one stops him. No one joins. You spot your neighbor rubbing garlic on his shutters. He doesn't meet your eyes. Inside you try to remember what real medicine tastes like. You once had a fever as a child bad enough to hallucinate and someone gave you honey boiled with onions. It worked. Or maybe the fever just ended. Either way, it felt like magic. This doesn't... You take another sip anyway. Mainstream records show that plague waters were sold or passed hand to hand throughout afflicted towns. Recipes varied, some used herbs and vinegar. Others included wine camphor, even powdered pearls. Most of them didn't help, but drinking them felt like doing something. Your dreams that night are heavy. You're running through the streets holding a jar that keeps spilling. No matter how tightly you seal it, the liquid seeps through. It drips onto the stones, and every drop sizzles like oil on fire. You wake with your mouth dry, and your blanket tangled around your legs. You cough. Once. Twice. Then silence. You tell yourself it's the smoke. You burned a bundle of thyme before bed. That's all it is. Still you check the mirror. No sores. No swelling. You check again an hour later. And again. Midday brings something new. A man arrives at the chapel with a case the size of a bread loaf. He opens it with a flourish and begins grinding something with a stone. He wears rings on every finger and smells strongly of mint. A crowd gathers. People whisper. You edge closer. Unicorn horn, he says. Ground fine, mixed with water and wormwood. One sip wards off the black swellings. Someone offers him a coin. He takes it, smiles, and hands over a small cup of chalky liquid. The man drinks it and winces. His wife pulls him away. You don't buy any. You don't have enough money anyway. Later you hear that 2 people who drank the unicorn potion started vomiting within an hour. But others swear by it. You boil your own water again and add mint leaves. You tell yourself it's just as good. Probably. Fringe medical texts speak of powdered unicorn horn, sold for ludicrous prices in plague-touched cities. In truth, it was usually ground narwhal tusk, deer antler, or crushed chalk. Still, belief carries its own weight. That night you dream again of jars, hundreds of them floating down a river, each labelled with someone's name. Yours floats upside down. You wake up just before dawn and check the jar again. Still full. Still awful. You drink it anyway. The baby won't stop crying. You hear it before the sun fully rises, that raw, ragged wail echoing across the square. Not rhythmic like hunger, not soft like discomfort. This is the shriek of something alone. You don't move at first. You lie still, eyes open, waiting for someone else to act. A door to creak, a voice to hush it. But nothing happens, just the crying. It's coming from Marta's house. She was marked 3 days ago. You throw on your cloak, press a cloth to your mouth, and step outside. The street is empty. The sound cuts through the fog like a blade, high-pitched, urgent aching. You stand outside her door. The red cross is faded, now crusted over with dust. You tap the wood gently, as if a softer knock will change what you find inside. No answer. You call out Marta's silence. Then another cry. Closer. You push the door open. Inside it smells like time stopped. The air is heavy, thick, with layers of stillness and rot. You move slowly through the dim room. A pot is still on the hearth, water long evaporated. A spoon lies on the floor. You find the baby in a basket lined with linen, alone. Face flushed, voice raw from crying. You don't see Marta. Not on the bed, not in the next room. Just the baby squirming beneath a stained scrap of cloth. You hesitate, then you pick it up. It's warm, fever warm but not boiling. Its tiny fingers curl around your thumb like memory. You leave the house as quietly as you entered, pulling the door shut behind you. You carry the child back across the square, half expecting someone to stop you, but no one does. Curtains twitch, doors creak. That's all. Back home, you set the baby down in a blanket-lined crate. You offer it water. It drinks, then coughs, then drinks again. You sit beside it, uncertain. What do you do now? Who's next of kin? Who's left? Fringe records tell of plague, orphans, infants, left in houses alone, crying for days. Some were rescued. Some weren't. Some were raised by strangers who couldn't bear another silence. You check the baby's skin. No sores, no bruises. But its eyes are glassy. Too quiet now. The fever may be hiding. You crush herbs and sprinkle them into water. You mash a little bread into a paste. The baby licks it, then turns away. You try again later. Same result. You think about returning it. About placing it back in the basket, pretending you never saw it. You don't. That night, you sleep sitting up, the baby swaddled in your cloak. You wake often, pressing a hand to its forehead, listening to its breathing. It's uneven, not laboured, not clear. You cough once, then bite your lip. Just tired. You whisper to no one. Just tired. The baby stirs but doesn't wake. You feel like a thief, like you've stolen someone's child from death, or from fate, maybe from both. You whisper a name, one you make up on the spot, and the baby doesn't flinch. It's something. The Lord's castle looms on the hill, just as it always has. Grey stone, small banners, and narrow slits for windows that never quite feel like eyes, but never quite don't either. You haven't thought about the castle in days, maybe weeks, but word spreads like fire in dry grass. The Lord is ill. You don't care at first. He never walked your roads, never bought your bread. But by midday something shifts. A bell rings from the gatehouse. Not the chapel's toll, not the handbell's rasp. This one is deeper, slower. It echoes through the town like a warning from the mountain itself. You pause at the edge of the square, baby bundled on your back in a sling of rough linen, pressing gently against your spine. You can feel the heat from its forehead even through the cloth. You weren't planning to go out, but fever has made the child restless, and staying still feels worse than wandering. 2 men in livery descend from the hill. Their uniforms are stained. One limps. The other keeps glancing behind him. They stop at the apothecary's ruined shop and find nothing but boarded windows, then move on toward the chapel, toward the priest, who now barely leaves the front steps. The men speak urgent and hushed. The priest just stares. He doesn't answer. The men leave. They pass you, and one glances at the baby. You should leave, he mutters. Where, you ask? He doesn't respond, just walks faster. You follow at a distance, curious now. When they reach the base of the hill, you see others. Servants, stable boys, maids, all sitting outside the castle walls, displaced, exiled. They're not coughing, not bleeding, but they're not allowed back inside. You approach a woman sitting with her knees drawn to her chest. Is it true, you ask? She nods. The Lord's cook collapsed yesterday, then the page. Now the steward's in bed with black marks on his chest, and the Lord still breathing. But he's not the same. She doesn't look up again. Mainstream accounts confirm that plague didn't spare wealth. Nobles fell just like peasants. The walls of stone didn't keep death out. They only made it echo louder. You return home, clutching the child tighter. That evening, you hear bells again from the castle. Not the slow toll of morning, but a flurry, short and shrill. An alarm. You watch from your window as a torch is lit on the outer wall. Then another. Then one more. A signal. For what, you sit down, pressing a cool cloth to the child's cheeks. It's breathing, but too quietly now. You whisper the name again, the one you made up. You say it softly in rhythm with your own heartbeat. The child stirs, doesn't cry. But the heat hasn't broken. Later that night, you light a candle and hold it near the floorboards, watching for flickers, for rats, for shadows that move without explanation. Instead, you find something tucked into the corner where the floor meets the wall. A coin. Polished. Clean. Placed neatly. Not yours. You wrap it in cloth and set it outside your door. No one takes it. Fringe tales tell of castle servants who were paid to leave not with gold, but with silence. A single coin to seal their mouths. A tiny pact, don't speak of what you saw, and maybe you'll live to spend it. You stay awake until the candle burns out. The baby twitches in its sleep, and somewhere beyond the fields, a wolf howls. You're not sure if it's real, but you listen to it anyway. The boat comes at dawn. No sails, no flag, just a black hull drifting into the harbour like it was steered by sleepwalkers. You hear about it from a fishmonger who hasn't sold a fish in 3 days but still wanders the square out of habit. Came in with the tide, he mutters, eyes wide, mouth dry. Didn't slow, just drifted right in. You don't ask questions. You've learned not to. But you head toward the shore anyway, child, wrapped tight against your chest, feverish and restless. The harbour is quiet. Too quiet. Usually, even in bad times, the docks have life. Rope creaks, water slaps wood. Someone somewhere swears at a leaking barrel. But not today. You pass 3 people turning back their faces pale, muttering things like, "No one aboard and not natural." You reach the wharf, and there it is. A single ship gently rocking, low in the water, too low, as if it's carrying more than it should. No sailors on deck, no sound from within. You take another step. That's when you see them. Rats. Dozens of them. Pouring down the ropes, skittering across the wood, moving in waves like water with feet. They vanish into the town without hesitation. You take 3 steps back, then 4. You turn and walk away. Fast, but not fast enough to seem afraid. Later you hear rumours that the boat is from the south, from somewhere warmer, somewhere red on every map that tracks the plague. Someone says the cargo hold was opened. Someone says they found only crates full of wool, full of straw. Someone else whispers, and a skeleton, shackled to the mast. You close your door that night and place a line of salt across the threshold. The baby whimpers in its sleep. You press your hand to its forehead. Still hot. You whisper the name again. You say it like a spell. You light 2 candles this time, just in case one goes out. Scholars remain divided on how plague ships were handled. Some ports barred entry. Others allowed docking but restricted unloading. In the worst cases, ships were simply abandoned, left to drift and rot, floating tombs on quiet water. You dream of waves, not peaceful ones, heavy ones. They crash through the streets, dragging bodies behind them like tangled fishing nets. You run, but your legs feel filled with stones. The baby slips from your arms. You scream, but the water doesn't hear you. You wake with your hand still reaching. The child is safe beside you. Still. You listen. No bells this morning. No shouts. Just rats. You hear them in the walls now. Sharp claws. Quick feet. A soft squeal. Too high to sound real. You throw a boot. They scatter, but they always return. Fringe law warns of rat tides, floods of rodents pouring into towns ahead of plague waves. Some claimed they were death's heralds. Others said they were the plague itself, clothed in fur and teeth. You believe both. You check the window. The boat is still there, unmoved, unclaimed, and the rats keep coming. You pack in silence. Not much. A blanket, a knife, a crust of bread, a cloth soaked in vinegar for your face. The child, of course, wrapped tight and slung against your back. You don't write a note. There's no one left to read it. You open the door just after sunrise. Fog clings low thick around the ankles, muffling sound. A few others are out too, faces you recognize but don't name. All moving the same direction. Away. No one speaks. There's no goodbye, no ceremony. Just quiet footsteps and the soft clatter of pots and bundles slung over shoulders. You make it past the square without looking back. But when you reach the edge of town, the road forks. North leads toward the hills. South winds toward the river. East, the direction most seem to take, cuts through the forest. A shortcut to the next village. You hesitate, then follow the crowd. The path is narrow, lined with trees that arch overhead like nervous mothers. Leaves shiver even without wind. The baby shifts against your spine fever radiating through the cloth. You keep walking. A mile in, you see the first sign that something's wrong. A cart overturned. Not wrecked, just abandoned. One wheel still spinning. A shoe lying in the dirt. The kind only children wear. You step around it. Then another. A few yards later, a scarf caught in a bush. A tin cup. No bodies. Just the leftovers of people in a hurry. The group begins to slow. People glance at one another but say nothing. One woman turns back. You consider following her. Then you hear coughing. A head around a bend. You freeze. The group halts. You strain to listen. One cough, then two, then nothing. Someone in front whispers, they brought it with them. Someone behind mutters, of course they did. And just like that, the group dissolves. Some turn into the trees. Others retrace their steps. One man drops his sack and walks off the path entirely. You don't know what to do. You choose silence. And keep walking. A few minutes later, you pass a man sitting against a tree, pale, breathing shallow. His eyes are closed, lips moving without sound. He's alone. You walk faster. Mainstream records show that escape attempts during the plague were often futile. Villages barred strangers. Roads were patrolled. Fear traveled faster than footsteps. The forest begins to thicken. The air smells different here, mossy, earthy, a little cleaner. You dare to hope. Maybe the next village will help. Maybe they'll take you in. Maybe the child will cool. You pass a boundary stone weathered, moss-covered, marking the edge of your home parish. You feel it as you cross, like shedding skin. A new sound hooves. You stop, press your back to a tree. A rider approaches, leather armor, a sword. The village crest on his sleeve, a guard. You wave. He doesn't wave back. He pulls up beside you. Where from, he asks. You name your village. He stares at you. Then at the baby. Turn back. You shake your head. There's nothing to go back to. He points. You go forward, you're bringing it with you. I'm not sick. He doesn't blink. Yet. He rides on. You stand there, heart pounding. The road feels longer now, and colder. Fringe reports tell of towns that set up checkpoints during plague years, turning away even the healthy. Some used armed patrols. Others posted signs, no entry, no mercy. You walk until your legs ache, until your throat burns, until the child begins to cry, not loud, just a weak mule, like a kettle far away. You find a patch of grass, sit beneath a tree, and rock gently. You whisper, "We're not sick," as if saying it might make it true. The forest breathes. It exhales cool mist in the morning and draws it back in with the heat. The trees whisper things to each other in rustling tongues. The birds sing quieter here. Even the insects seem reluctant to speak too loud. You've made it deeper than most. The road behind you is nothing now, just a suggestion of a path. The air smells of pine and damp soil. The baby sleeps against your back, his small head nestled into the space between your shoulder blades. Fever still simmering but not boiling. You thought the forest might offer peace, but peace here means something else. It means isolation. It means stillness that's too still. It means no voices, no footsteps, no laughter, no bells. You are alone. You find a small clearing beside a fallen tree, its roots exposed like a giant's hand clawing at the sky. You set down your bundle. The baby stirs. You give him water. He drinks. Then he coughs. Once. Sharp. You hold your breath. Wait. No more. Just wind threading through branches. You search for firewood. Every branch sounds like a broken bone. You stack it carefully. Light a small fire with a flint and scrap of rag soaked in oil. The smoke curls upward like a promise. You warm water. Crush herbs into it. Offer a few spoonfuls to the baby. He drinks, then turns his face away. You wipe his mouth. You sit back. Wait. Somewhere in the trees something howls. A long drawn-out sound. Not human. Not quite animal. Too far for danger. Too close for comfort. You don't move. Just listen. Fringe reports from the plague years mention refugees who fled into forests and never returned. Some say they joined hidden communities. Others say they starved or were taken by wolves. One account speaks of a woman who claimed the trees whispered names of the dead at night. You sleep in fits. Every twig snap wakes you. You dream of rats again this time. Not in towns, but in trees. Climbing branches. Watching from the canopy. Their eyes glint like coins. You wake with your hand clenched around a rock ready to strike. But it's just the fire crackling. You try not to look at the baby, but you do. His breath is shallow. Still warm but dry now. His skin pale. You hum something. Not a song exactly. Just a low sound. A vibration to keep the night at bay. At dawn you try to move on. But the path is harder now. Brambles tug at your cloak. Mud sucks at your boots. The road is more suggestion than trail. Your legs ache. The child is heavier than yesterday, not in weight but in worry. Then the trees thin. And you see it. A house. Alone. Small with a crooked roof, and smoke barely curling from the chimney. A fence surrounds a patch of garden long since wilted. You approach slowly, every step a question. An old woman opens the door before you knock. She stares, says nothing, then waves you in. You hesitate. Then enter. The inside smells of herbs and old bread. She motions to the child, touches his forehead, frowns. She mixes something from a pouch, hands you a cup. You give it to the baby. He drinks, then sleeps. She looks at you. You should go, she says. You nod, but don't move. She doesn't offer you food, but she gives you time. Mainstream sources rarely mention forest dwellers during the plague years, but they were there. Herbalists, widows, hermits, people who already lived apart, who feared humans more than illness. Sometimes they helped, sometimes they didn't. You leave before nightfall. The child breathes easier now, or you imagine it. Either way, the road stretches on. You follow. And the trees close in behind you. The blame starts before the healing ever begins. By the time you reach the edge of the next village, the signs are already there. Not written ones, no proclamations nailed to doors. Just the look in people's eyes. Sharp, suspicious. Watching you and your baby like you're both carrying something invisible on your skin. You don't bother speaking. You lower your hood, hold the child tighter, and keep walking. A woman selling onions stares as you pass. Not angry, just measuring. Behind her, a man sharpens a knife that clearly doesn't need sharpening. He watches you too. You nod polite. They don't nod back. Later, as you walk through a narrower lane, you see the first symbol, a white chalk circle on a door. Inside the circle, what looks like a cat's paw print. Drawn, not stamped. Deliberate. You see another, then another. You ask no one. But you start to understand. Cats, witches, women. The old fears rise again. Because when no one knows what causes a plague, someone must be guilty. Fringe accounts speak of these waves of blame as predictable. A cycle, first denial, then panic, then punishment. If death won't leave, you find someone to throw it at. In this village, the target is obvious. You hear it later that day near the well. A scream. You run toward it, not thinking, just acting. A crowd has gathered around a woman. Thin, barefoot, white hair matted under a shawl. She's on her knees, arms lifted. People shout. She spoke to crows and her herbs didn't work, and my daughter drank her tea and still died. The woman doesn't speak. She just looks tired. One man steps forward with a rope. You back away. Then you see something small under her shawl, a kitten trembling. The crowd doesn't care. Someone throws a stone. You flinch, though it doesn't hit you. The baby cries on your back. You turn and leave. You pass another child, eyes wide, clutching a wooden doll. You lock eyes for a moment. She doesn't blink. That night, you sleep near the edge of the village, in a shed with a missing door. The baby is burning again. You wipe his face with a damp cloth. He drinks but barely. You hum to him, low, tuneless. Outside footsteps. Voices. Did you see the stranger? She had a bundle. Could be hiding sores. You hold your breath. The voices fade, but they'll be back. You look at your hands. They're shaking. Whether from fear or fever, you don't know. You whisper to the baby. Not yet. Not now. Experts still debate whether these outbursts of violence were orchestrated or spontaneous. Sometimes the local leaders led the charge. Sometimes the crowd moved without anyone truly leading. Sometimes the fear just found its own voice. By morning the air feels thicker. People walk faster, heads low. There's another chalk mark, this time on the shed where you slept. You don't know if it was there last night. You take it as a sign. It's time to go. You sling the baby back across your shoulder. His breath is shallow again, but it's there. And for now, so are you. You don't look back, not even when the first bell rings behind you. You follow the road until it gives up being a road. The stones disappear first, then the ruts. Then even the deer trails seem to shy away. You walk now through tall grass and mud, the occasional crunch of frost underfoot, reminding you that even nature has its own ways of coughing. The baby doesn't cry anymore. That's good, and also not good. He sleeps with his face pressed against your back, limp but warm. You check his forehead every few minutes. Still hot, still breathing, still with you. By mid-morning you reach a hill. At the top, nestled among the trees, is a stone tower. Not large, just 3 stories, with a pointed roof that's missing a few tiles. The kind of place built by monks long ago, then abandoned when solitude lost its charm. You consider walking past, but something draws you in. At the base of the tower, an iron bell hangs from a wooden post. It's cracked. Doesn't ring anymore. Probably hasn't in years. But something about it feels ceremonial, like a guardian that died at its post. You knock at the door. No answer. You try the handle. It's open. Inside, quiet, dusty, but not empty. Books, dozens of them, piled on every surface. Some bound in leather, others in cloth. A few opened mid-page, like someone left in a hurry, or just never returned. And on the far wall, a desk. A candle burns low, still warm. You set the baby on a blanket beside the hearth, add wood cokes, the fire to life. Then you wait. Hours pass. At dusk, footsteps echo down the stairs. A man, robed, thin, eyes glassy but alert. He sees you, stops. You don't speak. He looks at the child, then at you. Not the first, he says quietly, but maybe the last. He sits across the room. Doesn't come closer. You ask, "Are you a priest number? A healer number?" You wait. He eventually says, "I'm a recorder. A witness." He gestures to the books. "I write down what's left." You nod. "What happened to the others?" He shrugs. "They left. Or didn't." You tell him about the baby, about the fever, about the rats and the boat and the silence back home. He listens, says nothing, just writes. Scholars remain divided on the roles of such figures. Lonely monks or scribes who chose isolation over flight. Some believe their work was essential to preserving plague-era knowledge. Others think they were merely cataloguing their own grief. The child stirs. You rush to his side. His skin damp now, cooler. Still feverish, but less than before. He opens one eye, then closes it. You sit back, heart thudding. The man doesn't comment, just writes. Later, he hands you a cup of something bitter. You sip. It tastes like ash and mint. It won't help, he says, but it gives your mouth something to do while you wait. You almost laugh. Almost. That night you sleep near the fire, the baby nestled close. The man continues writing. You watch him. He dips his quill slowly, turns each page like it's glass. Then he stops, looks up, and says, "If you live, remember the names." You ask, "What names?" He points to the books. All of them. Just when you think you've seen the worst, it returns. You wake before dawn, stiff from the stone floor, your back sore from holding the child through another restless night. The fire has gone out, but not completely. A few glowing coals breathe gently beneath the ashes like something waiting to be reborn. You rise, check the baby. Breathing, yes. Fever, maybe. Hard to say now. His face looks calmer, but sleep has a way of hiding the truth. You turn toward the scribe. He's already writing again. "Good morning," you say. He doesn't reply. You take a step closer. His pen scratches on. The candle beside him is new. The light flickers, casting long shadows over the books. Then you notice the door to the tower is open. Wide open. You didn't open it. Wind stirs the papers on the desk. The scribe finally looks up. He blinks once slowly. "They're coming again," he says. Who, he doesn't answer. Just looks toward the trees beyond the doorway. You step outside, child against your chest again, tucked under your cloak. The morning fog is thicker than yesterday, thicker than any day. And there on the horizon a figure, then another, and another. You squint, shadows moving between trees, slowly. Not marching, not running, drifting. You step back inside. They've come before you ask. He nods. They return, he nods again. You shut the door. Bar it. Rebuild the fire fast and frantic, as if flame might erase memory. The scribe keeps writing. Do you know what they are? He dips his quill. Survivors, or ghosts of them. You sit beside the baby. His hands are twitching in sleep. One eye flutters open, then closes again. Outside the air goes still. No birdsong, no rustling. Just the thick silence of something that doesn't belong. Experts still debate whether second plague waves were more deadly, or if the memory of the first simply sharpened the pain. Towns emptied too fast to keep good records. Survivors counted time not in weeks but in reappearances. You stay inside all day. Don't eat. Don't sleep. Just wait. At nightfall, the scribe finally speaks again. They left something last time. You glance at him. He gestures toward a shelf. You walk over. A small box. Wooden. No lock. You open it. Inside feathers. A clump of hair. A scrap of cloth with strange ink markings. What is it? He shrugs. Offerings, maybe. Or warnings. Fringe sources describe plague victims leaving tokens at the homes of those untouched. Not always for comfort. Sometimes out of bitterness. Sometimes because they believed the untouched must be hoarding luck. You close the box. Place it back. At midnight, you hear singing. Not cheerful. Not melodic. Just a low chant winding through the trees like smoke. You cover the baby's ears. You cover your own. And still the sound seeps in. The scribe doesn't flinch. He just dips his pen, writes 3 words, then closes the book. You don't ask what they were. At dawn, the singing is gone. The fog has thinned. The door is still shut, but the air smells wrong again, like dried blood and wet earth. You check the baby, still warm, still breathing, still here. You hold him tighter and wait for the silence to break. The dreams begin to change. They used to be frantic, running through streets, clawing through doors, clutching at the child while smoke or water or rats surged around you. But now they're slower. You dream of standing still, of being watched, of eyes in the trees, in the walls, even in the fire. Not hostile exactly, just present, observing, waiting for you to name them. You don't. You wake just before the candle burns out. The scribe hasn't moved. He sleeps sitting upright, quill, still clutched between 2 fingers. Ink dried at the tip. You check the child. Cooler. Skin pale, but no longer waxy. The fever is breaking. You don't smile, not yet, but you breathe deeper. Outside, the world feels lighter. The fog has lifted. Sunlight spills in through the high window like it forgot how long it's been away. You decide to take the child outside just for a few minutes. Fresh air. That's all. The grass glitters with dew. Birds chirp, cautious but real. The tower stands quiet behind you, a grey silhouette against a blue sky. You settle near the fallen log, where you first stopped 2 days ago. The baby opens his eyes fully for the first time in days. They're cloudy, unsure but alive. You talk to him, not in full sentences, just gentle sounds. Your name, his made-up name, a few memories from before all this. Things he won't remember, but you need to say. Then you hear the voice. Hello there. You turn. A man stands at the tree line, middle-aged, cloaked, holding a staff that looks more ceremonial than useful. You stand up, placing the baby against your chest. I'm just passing through, he says quickly. Not sick. You don't relax, but you don't run either. He steps closer. Not too close. Keeps a good 15 feet of air between you. You've been at the tower, he asks. You nod. Anyone else? The scribe. He nods. Still alive. You shrug. Writing. Of course. He sets down a small pack on the ground between you. I've left food. Dried fruit mostly. Some clean water. Why? He shrugs. I was helped once. Seems fair. Mainstream accounts rarely dwell on kindness during plague years. But it was there in small acts. Unrecorded gestures, shared water. Firecloth. Not loud. Not frequent. But real. You nod. He turns to leave. Stops. Tell him when he writes about me, tell him I wasn't afraid. You watch him walk into the trees, dissolving into the green. You take the pack, return to the tower. The The scribe looks up when you enter. He brought you something, you say. The scribe writes one word: kindness. You warm the fruit for the child. He eats a few bites, then sleeps. Later that evening you ask the scribe, "Have you written about me?" He doesn't answer. So you ask again, "Will you?" He looks up. You're not finished yet. You don't know if that's comforting or not. That night the dreams return. Not of rats, not of fire, but of pages turning, endlessly. Each one with your name at the top, each one blank beneath. You hear the knock just before dusk. Not at the door, on the stone wall beside your bed. 3 sharp taps, deliberate. You freeze. The baby stirs in your lap, letting out a small, hoarse breath. He doesn't wake. You gently shift his weight and stand listening. Another knock. You glance at the scribe. He doesn't look up. "Did you hear that?" "Yes," he says. His voice is calm. "Don't open it. It's not the door." "I know." You stare at the wall. Tap. You approach slowly, heart in your throat. You press your ear against the cold stone. Nothing. Then a voice. Low, familiar, twisted by something underneath. "Let me in." You step back. You know that voice. Tomas, the baker's boy, the first body you saw in the alley. But he's dead. He's been dead. Your mind scrambles for logic. Maybe someone's mimicking him. Maybe the fever's caught you after all. Then the voice says your name, and it's his voice again, highlight cracked with teenage mischief. "I didn't get to say goodbye," it says. You back away until your shoulders hit the opposite wall. The scribe still doesn't move. You ask him, "Is this real?" "Real enough." You wait. No more knocking, no more voice, just the silence of stone and memory. Fringe folklore speaks of echoes, not ghosts, not hallucinations, but fragments. Some said they were left behind by the plague. Others believed they were memories so heavy they carved themselves into the walls. Some believed they were warnings. That night, you sit by the fire with the baby asleep beside you, watching the flame shrink and twitch. You whisper the baker boy's name once, just once, and the wall stays quiet. You don't sleep. The scribe finally closes his book near dawn. "That's enough for today," he says, though you're not sure he wrote anything at all. He adds wood to the fire. You ask, "What would happen if I spoke back?" He doesn't answer right away. Then he says, "Maybe nothing. Maybe it lets them in." The child coughs in his sleep. You rush to his side, check his forehead. Still warm, still breathing. You pour water into his mouth with a small spoon. He swallows. Doesn't open his eyes. You rest your head on the floor beside him, exhaustion pressing down on your spine like a slab of stone. You drift. You dream. This time you're walking through a market. The one from home. It's bright, full of sound and life. People wave, bread bakes, coins change hands. Then you turn a corner. Everyone is facing the wall, hands pressed to stone, not moving. Then they all speak your name in unison. You wake with your own voice in your throat. The baby is awake too, eyes open, watching you like he knows what you saw. You pick him up, hold him close. He doesn't cry, but he doesn't blink either. Mainstream psychology wouldn't be invented for centuries, but survivors of the plague often spoke of bad dreams that bled into the day. Some couldn't tell waking from sleeping. Others chose not to. You spend the morning outside trying to remind yourself what real things feel like. Bark, sunlight, leaves. You touch everything. The child watches the sky, and for once so do you. The chapel is empty. You find it by accident at the edge of a forgotten road. The tower scribe had mentioned a stone cross past the east-facing trees, and curiosity pulls you there with the child bundled against your chest like a fragile question. The building is small, no bell. The door half-rotted, hanging off its hinges like a loose tooth. Ivy creeps up the walls, weaving through cracks where rain and time have gotten too familiar with the stone. You step inside. Dust leaps in the air like it's been waiting centuries to dance. The air is dry thick with the smell of candle wax and old ashes. No voices, no prayers. Just rows of empty benches and an altar that holds nothing but dust and melted stubs. You walk down the center aisle slowly. Each footstep feels loud, intrusive. You glance around, almost expecting to see faces in the pews, but there are none. Just silence and the kind of stillness that feels like it should be respected. The baby doesn't stir. You reach the altar and sit. Not to pray, just to rest. The stone beneath you is cold and cracked. A single candle stub clings to the edge of a wooden shelf. You light it with a flint, mostly out of habit. The flame trembles, and so do you. For a while you say nothing. Then you whisper, "Is anyone here?" The wind answers through the holes in the roof. Nothing more, and yet you feel watched. Not in a dangerous way, not even in a haunted way. Just noticed. The way a still pond notices a pebble. You stand and glance behind the altar. A pile of burned fabric. Robes maybe. Priest's vestments. Half consumed by fire, now stiff and brittle. A metal cross lies nearby, its chain snapped. You pick it up. It's warm though, untouched by sun or flame. You drop it. It lands without a sound. Fringe tales speak of abandoned chapels that became resting places for neither the living nor the dead, just places where memory sat like dust. Places too quiet to hold grief, and too sacred to hold fear. You leave the building without looking back. Outside you see the sky shift. Clouds gather at the horizon, slow and fat, with unspent rain. You hurry back toward the tower, the baby now heavier in your arms, breathing slow and steady. When you return, the scribe is asleep again, head slumped, ink drying in his pen. You sit beside the fire and check the child's skin. Cool. You almost cry. But don't. Instead, you whisper something you haven't said in a while. Thank you. The baby murmurs, eyes half open, and presses his cheek into your shoulder. The sky thunders in the distance. Not a storm yet, just a promise. You close your eyes, head resting against the stone wall. You don't sleep, but for once you rest. The well's water tastes different now. It's faint at first, just a metallic note that wasn't there before. You tell yourself it's the bucket, or the rope, or your tongue playing tricks again. But by the second sip, it's undeniable the water has changed. You pour it out. The baby doesn't drink any. He's asleep again, his little fist curled around the edge of your tunic like he's anchoring himself to you. You dip the bucket again anyway, watching as the rope creaks its way down the well's throat. It echoes, not just the bucket scraping the stone, but something else, something deeper. A drip, then another, then silence. You pull it back up. The water's clear, but you don't trust it. You walk back to the tower slowly. The air feels heavy, like it's been holding in a cough. The scribe is outside, hunched near a patch of moss. He's digging. You didn't think he ever left his desk. What are you doing, you ask? He holds up a gnarled root. Angelica, he says. If you boil it, it makes the water taste like something else. Like what? Like not death. You wait while he gathers more. Did the water change before you ask? He nods. The last time the sky looked like this, mainstream accounts mention little about wells. But fringe sources say many believed plague crept in through water, riding in on frogs, worms, even reflections. One man reportedly refused to drink unless the water rippled naturally. Stillness scared him more than thirst. Back in the tower, you build a small fire and boil the water with the root. It helps. The bitterness masks the metallic edge. You sip. The baby refuses, turns his head away. You dip your finger in the mix and touch it to his lips. He licks, frowns, but doesn't protest. Later you clean your hands with vinegar again. You've done it so many times, your skin is cracked, the knuckles raw. But you keep doing it. The scribe returns to his desk and opens a new page. What are you writing now? He says. A list of things that didn't help. You nod. How long is it? He holds up the book. It's thicker than your fist. That night the wind picks up. The trees groan outside, not swaying, straining. You light extra candles. You gather the child close. You place a wet cloth over the window cracks to keep the draft out. Then you hear it, a knock at the well. You stiffen. 1, 2, then silence. You look at the scribe. He doesn't react. Did you hear yes? Do we check number? You wait. Another knock. Not angry, not even urgent. Just rhythmic. Tap, tap, tap. The baby stirs in his sleep. You press a hand to his back. He calms. Eventually the knocking stops. You both sit in silence. The only sound, the wax dripping down the side of your candle. Fringe folklore tells of spirits drawn to water during plague years. People who drowned themselves or were buried too close to wells returned as knocks or whispers echoes from below. Others say it was just the wind and too much fear. The next morning the water is still strange, but you drink it anyway, because fear doesn't quench thirst, and hope isn't what it used to be. You meet him by the graves, the grave digger, or what's left of him. He's old, older than stone, you'd say. Back-hunched beard yellowed by pipe smoke and time. His boots are two different sizes, one tied with twine. He smells of soil, and something older, something worn in and earthy, like a cellar that's never forgotten a secret. You find him just outside the tower one morning, standing over a shallow trench he's already halfway through digging. You didn't hear him arrive. Morning, he says without turning. You nod, child, pressed to your chest, wrapped against the still, cool air. Thought this place was abandoned, you offer. It was he, grunts. Then people started dying. He doesn't say more. He digs. Each scoop of earth lands beside the trench with a sound like heavy breath. His rhythm is slow but steady, like he's done this his whole life, and doesn't plan on stopping until someone buries him in his own hole. You sit nearby, not too close. The baby naps. You stroke his head soft and warm. Need help, you ask. He shrugs. Not yet. A pause. Then, but maybe soon. You watch for a while. Eventually he stops. Sits on a stump. Pulls out a crust of bread, offers half to you. You take it. It's dry but solid. You chew slowly, grateful. You're not from here, he says. No one is any more, you reply. He chuckles. You have a name, you ask. Not one worth remembering. He reaches into a satchel and pulls out a notebook, thin, stained, barely holding together. What's that list of names, he says. Of the dead. He nods. Everyone I've buried since the first bell rang. You ask how many, he shrugs. More than I can count. But I write them anyway. Not for them, for me. You say nothing. You understand. He flips to a page and shows you a name. It's written 3 times. Same name, same spelling. She came back, he says. You raise your eyebrows. He doesn't elaborate. The sun climbs higher. He rises again and starts to dig a second trench. Why 2, you ask? He says nothing. Fringe accounts speak of grave diggers, who kept lists obsessively, even drawing crude faces or describing how people died, not out of duty, but because they were the last ones left to care. Some of them talked to the dead. Some of them listened. You stay until dusk. He's finished both trenches by then. Before he leaves, he says, I don't bury the living, but I've buried people who felt dead. You nod. He nods back. Then he vanishes into the trees, shovel over one shoulder, humming a tune that has no notes, only rhythm. That night you sit beside the scribe. I met someone, you tell him. He keeps writing, another recorder in his way. The scribe doesn't answer, but he turns the page. You lie down beside the fire. The baby stirs. You place a hand on his chest, still warm, still breathing, still here. It sounds like laughter. You hear it just before dawn, quiet, distant, coming from somewhere deeper in the woods. Not the wild, high-pitched laughter of children. Not joy. This is slower, harsher. A laugh that's learned too much and slept too little. You sit up. The baby is still asleep. His lips twitch in a dream, one tiny fist curled against your side. The fire's out. The air is cold. The scribe is already awake, of course. He's always awake when you need him to be. Did you hear that, you ask? He doesn't look up. Yes. Is someone out there? There's always someone out there. You stand, wrap the baby tighter to your chest, and cross to the window. The forest is quiet again. Still. But the sound lingers in your mind like a bruise. You whisper, what if someone's in the tower? The scribe finally sets down his quill. There is. You and me. No, you say. Someone new. He shrugs. Then don't look. You hate that answer. So naturally you look. You light a candle and climb the spiral staircase. Each step creaks under your feet, like a voice trying to clear its throat. At the top is a small wooden door warped by rain and years. You push it open. The tower's upper room is empty, but it doesn't feel empty. There's a chair near the window, dustless. A blanket folded neatly on the floor, and beside it a doll. Old, handmade, one button eye, the other missing. You stare at it a moment too long. Then you close the door. Back downstairs, the scribe doesn't ask where you went. He just writes. You feed the baby a few spoonfuls of mash. He eats, slowly, but willingly. You almost smile. Almost. Later that day you step outside. Just for air. You walk to the edge of the clearing where the forest begins again. You listen. Nothing. Then a crunch. Behind you. You spin. No one. But something's there. A shape in the distance. Moving between trees. Tall. Slouched. Drifting more than walking. You back away. Return to the tower. Lock the door. Mainstream plague accounts don't mention this kind of fear, not directly. But between the lines of letters and records, there's a kind of paranoia that creeps in. A sense that death isn't just a force. It's a presence. A watcher. A figure with too many faces. That night you sleep in shifts. You wake every hour. Check the door. Check the child. Check your reflection in the copper bowl, just to make sure your eyes still belong to you. Then deep in the night, you hear it again. Laughter. Closer this time. You pull the baby into your lap and press his face to your chest. The sound passes, doesn't stop, just fades. The scribe doesn't look up, but he says, "Some people break, some bend." You ask. And some, he answers, disappear. You don't ask which you're becoming. He's sitting at the desk without his mask. The plague doctor. You didn't hear him enter. One moment the scribe is alone, hunched over his book. The next there's a man in a dark leather coat, long gloves boots that shine like they've never touched mud, and no beaked mask. Just a face. Weathered, narrow, eyes like polished flint. You freeze in the doorway, the baby pressed to your shoulder. He doesn't wake. You don't breathe. The man looks up, not startled, not hostile. "Don't worry," he says, "I'm off duty." The scribe doesn't glance up, just turns a page and continues writing. You cross to the far wall, staying as far from the doctor as possible. "You're not sick," he says calmly. "Neither is the child," you answer. He nods. "Not yet." There's no menace in his voice. Just the flatness of someone who's watched too many flames and measured too many pulses. "Where are you from?" you ask. "Everywhere," he says. Then adds Naples last. "Before that, Florence. Before that." He trails off. Shrugs. You ask, "What did you see in Naples?" For the first time something flickers in his eyes. He leans back. "There were boats that never docked," he says. Men inside starved, still standing. Flies thick enough to coat the sails. We burned them from the waterline in. The scribe pauses. He's listening now. The doctor continues. "Before that, I watched a woman nurse her husband every day. Swelling under his arms, black sores across his back. She kissed his forehead even as he died. She didn't fall ill, not even a cough." You say she was lucky. "No," he replies. "She was pregnant. The baby took it from her. Died the day it was born." He smiles. The body is strange. The plague is stranger. He reaches into a satchel and pulls out a cloth bundle, unties it. Inside, glass vials all filled with different colours. Crimson, cloudy, white, murky green. "This one," he says, holding up the red works for pain. Or so they say. He sets it down. "This one, the green, clears the lungs." For a day. He sets that down too. "And this one, the milky one, does nothing. But it looks beautiful when it breaks." You say nothing. He picks up the last vial and tosses it gently. It hits the floor, rolls toward you, stops by your foot. You don't pick it up. He smiles. Mainstream records document plague doctors by their appearance more than their actions. But fringe sources, private journals, scribbled margins describe strange moments, confessions, stories, things too human to write in official ink. The doctor stands, dusts off his coat. "Most people want cures," he says, "but no one asks what the sickness wants." You ask, "And what does it want?" He looks at the baby. Attention. Then he turns, walks out the tower door. Doesn't shut it behind him. The scribe finally lifts his pen. "He was here before," he says. "Last season. Did he help number? Why let him in?" The scribe shrugs. He always finds a way. You close the door. Lock it. The baby stirs. You press your lips to his temple. Still warm. Still breathing. Still here. But for how long you don't ask. And the scribe doesn't answer. Time stops having names. There are no more Sundays. No market days. No festival eves. No difference between waking and sleeping, hunger and boredom hope and habit. You sleep in patches. You eat what you have. You wait for nothing in particular. And still you count things. Not days exactly. Just occurrences. The baby blinked 12 times today. You heard rats in the ceiling once, but not twice. The scribe turned a page every hour. The candle burned down to half its height before you blew it out. Counting is the only structure left. Outside the world is mud and mist and brittle green things. You walk the edge of the woods, sometimes baby strapped to your back, whispering stories into his ear like charms. Nonsense tales about brave goats and clever shadows. You don't know if he understands. You don't care. The stories are for you, really. One day you pass a tree with something carved into it. A name. Yours. It stops you cold. Not fresh weathered moss creeping into the grooves. You run your fingers over it. You never carved this, but it's there. You walk faster that day. Back at the tower, the scribe hasn't moved. You ask, "Did you carve a name into the tree's number, you sure?" He doesn't answer. You look down at his book. He's drawing now, not words but faces. Dozens. None quite detailed. Just eyes, mouths. A blur of silent expressions. One of them looks like the baby. You don't mention it. Fringe records mention a condition some plague survivors experienced called chronoshift by modern scholars. A drifting of time, a loss of seasonal rhythm. People reported the sun rising at the wrong hour, trees blooming in the wrong month. One woman swore she had 2 birthdays in 1 week. You feel that now. You wake before dawn and it feels like evening. You eat at midnight and it feels like breakfast. You feed the child and he smiles. Maybe. Or he grimaces. Hard to tell. You hum a lullaby you don't remember learning. You forget the last time you said your name out loud. You try one night, just to see. It sounds wrong. Too sharp in your mouth. Like something borrowed. You whisper instead, "I'm still here." The wind doesn't answer. The scribe does. He says, "Not everyone is." You look at him. He's thinner now. So are you. So is the line between inside and outside real and not memory and dream. You light a candle at sunset. You let it burn down. You count the drips of wax. 47. The baby sneezes once, then sleeps again. You place your hand on his back. Still warm, still breathing, still here. And so are you. For now. The candle flickers, then dies. You stare at the melted stub, too tired to light another. The fire has long since faded to coals, and your breath clouds the air in front of you. You pull the child closer under the blanket. He shifts, then settles. You count his breaths again. That's what night has become, counting what's still happening, because there's so much that isn't. You listen. No wind, no animals, no bells, not anymore. You remember when the bells were constant, when every hour seemed to mark a passing. Now, the silence is heavier than any chime. You wonder if the bell ringers are gone, or if they just stopped ringing because there was no one left to hear them. You close your eyes. You dream you're in your own home back in the village. Sunlight filters through the wooden shutters. A loaf of bread cools on the table. Everything smells of rosemary and baked earth. You hear laughter outside. You step out the door. There's no one there, just dust. And shoes. Pairs and pairs of shoes neatly lined up, all facing your house. You wake with a jolt. The baby stirs, murmurs. You press your lips to his forehead. Cooler now. Almost normal. You dare not believe it. By mid-morning, the scribe stands at the door with his book under his arm. "I'm going," he says. You blink. Where he looks toward the forest, to find out if it's over. You say nothing for a long moment. Then you think it could be he shrugs. "I don't know. But I can't write about endings if I haven't seen one." You watch him go. He doesn't take food, or water, or a coat. Just the book, and the pen. You don't follow. You sit by the fire and try to feel something. Relief, fear, loneliness. All you feel is stillness. Mainstream historians often argue about how plague years ended, not with triumph, but with silence. There was no parade, no horn blast. Just people stepping out one day and finding the world didn't stop them. That night you hear a voice again, outside. But this time, it doesn't knock. It doesn't call your name. It just whispers, soft, measured, like a lullaby in a language you almost remember. You go to the door, but don't open it. The baby breathes steadily in your arms. You wait until the whisper fades. Then you say aloud to no one, "We're not dead." The walls say nothing back. You hold the baby tighter. You hum the same lullaby from your dream. You don't know the words, but the melody stays. You find it tucked beneath the scribe's chair, folded neatly, as if waiting for hands that never returned. A piece of parchment. Not large, not new. The edges are curled, the ink smudged in places. At first you think it's a list, more names perhaps. But when you smooth it open, you see the faint shape of lines, curving, branching, a map, or at least the ghost of one. You hold it to the light. There's no title, no compass rose. Just curves like rivers and specks like villages. A crooked X sits just off center. Beside it, a single word. Still, you say it aloud. Nothing stirs. You don't tell yourself it's a real map. You don't lie that it's drawn to scale. But the idea of direction feels like enough. You gather your things. You tuck the baby against your chest, wrap his legs in the last clean cloth you have, and pull your cloak tight. Then you leave the tower. The wind is soft today, the sky overcast but not oppressive. You take the first path toward the nearest bend in the woods, the baby pressing warm into your sternum, his breath rhythmic. You walk for hours. You find nothing. Then something. A broken signpost. The wood is rotted, the paint gone, but one nail still holds a shard of lettering L. It might have once said Stillwater, or Willow Hill, or Kilcross, but you choose to believe it matches the map. You step off the path, through trees, over roots, past a clearing where bees buzz lazy and drunk on the first brave flowers of spring. And there, just past a bend, you find it. A stone, set upright, carved. You brush away moss. Still, your legs give out. You sit, baby, still pressed against you, heart pounding in a slow, surprised rhythm. You wait. The stone marks nothing, or everything. A field lies beyond it. Empty, peaceful, rows of furrows soft and wet, ready for planting, and on the far side a house. Not crumbled, not smoking, just standing. You don't move. You just watch it. Mainstream histories often speak of mass migration, of entire towns collapsing into wilderness. But what they miss are these places, the ones that didn't die, just waited. The baby shifts. You rise. You walk slowly through the field. The soil clings to your boots. The clouds part just a little, and light falls on the roof of the house like a blessing. You reach the door, raise your hand, knock, 1, 2, then you wait. The door creaks open, but not all the way. Just a few inches, enough for a pair of eyes to appear, set in a narrow, careful face. The woman behind it says nothing at first. She studies you, then the baby, then the mud on your cloak. Her lips press into a thin line. You don't speak either. Words have weight now. You've learned not to spend them, unless you must. Finally she says, "You're late." It's not what you expected. Not suspicion, not welcome. Just a strange, tired acceptance, like someone answering the door for the wind. Then she opens it fully. You step inside. The house smells of onions and thyme. A fire crackles in the hearth. A pot simmers on the coals, some kind of root stew. The floor is swept. The windows clean. The table set with 3 bowls. 3. She takes the baby from your arms, without asking. Not rough, confident. She presses a hand to his forehead. Feels under his chin. Looks into his eyes. He stares back calm. "He'll keep," she says. You nod. She hands him back and gestures toward the bench. You sit. She doesn't ask your name. You don't ask hers. She ladles stew into the bowls. Carrots. Leeks. Bits of something dark and salty. It's hot. It's real. It makes your hands tremble. "You were with the scribe?" she asks. You blink. You know him. She sits across from you, chewing slowly. He passed through here once. Long time ago. Before he stopped writing about places like this. You eat in silence for a while. Then, "Are there others?" She doesn't answer. She just glances toward the back room. You follow her eyes. Through the doorway you see shelves lined with jars. A spinning wheel. A cot. A shadow moves across the far wall. Someone's there. She stands. "He won't come out," she says. Not yet. Why? She shrugs. He's waiting to believe it's safe. Is it? I don't know. You don't press. Mainstream plague narratives often fade out with vague notes of recovery and life returned, they say. But recovery isn't loud. It's not a bell ringing. It's this 3 bowls on a table, one shadow behind a door, someone eating again without crying. You help her clean the dishes after the meal. The baby falls asleep on your chest, warm and heavy. She gives you a blanket. Stay one night. You don't argue. You sleep by the fire. She disappears into the back room. You hear voices murmuring low and soft. Nothing urgent. Just shared sound like people remembering how to exist together. You dream of quiet streets. No bells. No carts. No smoke. Just windows with light in them. In the morning, she hands you a jar of broth, bread, a clean cloth. You ask, should I keep going? She looks out the window, then says, I think the road's shorter now. You nod. Step outside. The baby stirs in your arms, and this time when he opens his eyes, he smiles. A real one. Small, brief, but undeniable, you whisper. We're still here. And this time the world whispers back. You see her from a distance, barefoot crouched. Low hair streaked with soot and tangled like smoke. She's watching you from a rooftop. The house beneath her is half collapsed, walls bowed inward, like someone exhaled too hard from inside. But she stays balanced atop it, arms wrapped around her, knees gaze sharp and unblinking. You stop at the edge of the street. The baby shifts in your arms. The girl doesn't move. Hello, you call gently. She tilts her head bird-like, then disappears over the other side of the roof, as soundless as mist. You should keep walking, but something in you doesn't. Instead, you follow. Around the broken fence, through a gap in the stone wall, past the ruin of what might once have been a garden. Ash covers the ground like grey snow. Charred stems poke upward like skeletal fingers. Behind the house is a path, a thin trail trodden just enough to suggest it wasn't always empty. You walk it. The girl waits at the far end, standing now. Still barefoot, still silent. She turns and starts walking, glancing back only once. You follow. It's not a chase, it's a trust. She leads you down a slope through brush that scratches your cloak. The baby coos softly. The girl hears and pauses just for a breath, then keeps going. At the bottom of the slope is a grove, and in that grove others. Not many. Maybe 5. Maybe 10. Women. Men. A boy threading string through a cracked boot. A woman stirring something in a pot over a small flame. A man sharpening a spoon of all things. No one looks surprised to see you. No one speaks. The girl finally does. She points to a tree stump and says simply, "You can sit." So you do. The baby yawns. The girl kneels beside you. Her hands are smudged with dirt nails blackened from work, but her eyes are steady. "You're the one who made it from the tower," she says. You blink. "How do you know?" "We saw the fires," she answers. "Saw the doctor leave. He always leaves after." You glance around the grove again. "You all live here." "Not live," she says. "Stay." That word lands heavier than you'd expect. Stay. She reaches into a pouch and pulls out a handful of dried herbs, offers them to you. You recognize some sage marigold elderflower. "These help," she shrugs. "Some things don't need help, just waiting." You don't ask how long they've been here, or who they've lost, or why the girl wears ash in her hair like a crown. You understand that the answers wouldn't matter now. You feed the baby while they pass you a cup of warm broth. Someone hums as they sew. Someone laughs soft, barely there, but real. Fringe stories speak of plague hollows, little pockets of survivors who formed out of nothing. Not towns, not camps, just pauses in history where people sat still and breathed together. You think you've found one. That night you sleep beneath a patchwork tarp beside the girl. She doesn't tell you her name. You don't tell her yours. The baby sleeps between you, both cocooned in warmth, tucked in by silence. The stars blink above, and the trees for once don't whisper anything at all. The book is waiting. You find it 2 days later, resting beneath the bent limbs of an elm tree. Pages dry cover, warped from dew. Its spine split open like something exhaling after too long closed. It's his, the scribe's. You knew it the moment you saw the cracked leather binding and the faded ribbon he always used to mark his place. It sits atop a flat stone as if placed with care, not dropped, not forgotten. The girl with ash in her hair stands beside you. She says nothing, just watches. You kneel slowly, the baby sleeping on your back. You place a hand on the book before opening it as if to ask permission. The first few pages are familiar. Your name, the village, the fever, the tower, each line written in that same careful, restrained hand. Not poetic, not dramatic, just facts filtered through quiet eyes. Then you find the blank pages. Dozens of them. Clean. Empty. Except the last one. There, in the center, a single line. If you find this, you were meant to. No signature. No date. Just that. You stare at it until the ink seems to blur. The girl steps forward, crouches beside you. He passed through 2 nights ago, she says softly. Didn't say much. But he left that here. Did he look sick, you ask? She shrugs. He looked. I've finished. You don't ask if that means dead. You don't need to. Instead, you open the book again. Find a fresh page. You take a charcoal stub from your satchel. And you write, still breathing. Then you add the baby's name. The real one. The one you've only whispered in sleep. You add the girl too. Just a word. Watcher. Then you keep going. The village with the quiet chapel. The red crosses. The well that spoke. The rats. The knock on the wall. You don't write everything. But enough. Enough for someone else to understand if they ever reach this page. Fringe records speak often of silent scribes, those who picked up abandoned books and filled them with their own truths. They weren't historians. They weren't priests. They were people who couldn't bear for the past to go unspoken. You close the book gently. Place it back on the stone. Cover it with a flat tile of bark. The girl says, we'll leave it here. Others come sometimes. They'll know what to do. You nod. The wind moves softly through the branches, brushing your cheek like a breath. The baby wakes, doesn't cry, just opens his eyes and looks around like it's all new, like he's starting from the beginning. That night you dream of pages, hundreds of them, all blank, waiting, and for the first time in a long while, your hands don't tremble at the thought of filling them. They build the fire slowly. No rush, no barking orders, just a shared rhythm, collecting branches, stacking stones, striking flint. The girl with ash in her hair adds dry moss with practiced hands. A boy no older than 10 lights the first spark. It catches with a soft waft, and the fire begins to breathe. You sit on a log with the baby in your lap. He watches the flames wide-eyed, not afraid. You can feel his breath on your collarbone, steady and calm. One by one they gather. No one says why. No one calls it a ceremony. But it is. Someone brings a pot of broth. Another hands out hunks of rough bread. A woman you haven't met before hums as she mends a torn coat beside the fire. The humming spreads. Someone taps a spoon on a rock. It isn't music, but it feels like music. Then someone speaks. A man with a limp and a voice like gravel. I used to be a mason. Built chimneys so tall I'd lose sight of the ground. He pauses. Looks into the flames. Never thought I'd live underground again. Not for safety. Just to hide. No one laughs, no one cries, but someone nods. A moment passes, then another voice. I had a cat, a young girl whispers. She slept on my chest every night, even when I was sick. I kept breathing so she would. You stare into the fire. Then, without planning to, you speak. I found the baby in a house marked with a red cross. His mother was gone. His fever wouldn't break. He stopped crying. I kept talking to him anyway. You look down. He's asleep now. You whisper, he's still here. The others murmur not words, but soft approvals. One woman places a hand on your shoulder as she passes. Mainstream histories won't write about this moment. But it's real. The fire crackles. Someone tosses a bundle of dried sage into the flames. The smoke rises, in spirals fragrant and clean. It smells like closing old doors, like sealing in warmth, like choosing to stay. A boy points at the stars. That one wasn't there last week. An older man chuckles. Maybe it moved back. They talk of strange dreams, of the knockings, of the first time they dared to step outside after the bells went silent. You don't need to explain what that moment feels like. They all know. Fringe writings mention these gatherings, fire circles they're sometimes called. Places where grief softened its edges and memory was reshaped by warmth. Not just survival, but reassembling what it meant to be human. The night deepens. The baby shifts in your lap and lets out a sound. Not a cry, a laugh. Small, gurgled, barely there, but unmistakable. Everyone turns. You smile without meaning to, and they smile too. Someone leans forward and adds another log to the fire. You should tell that to the next one who comes through, the girl says. I will, you reply. And you mean it. He arrives just before dawn, walking out of the mist like someone who belongs to another season. His cloak is patched but clean. His beard is grey at the edges. He carries no weapon, no food. Just a wooden spade strapped across his back and a pouch tied to his belt. You notice his hands first dirt under every fingernail, palms rough with work. He walks with the weight of someone who's already buried too many people and decided finally to plant something instead. He stops at the edge of the fire circle, doesn't speak, just waits. The girl with ash in her hair walks over to him. They exchange a look brief and simple, like people who've seen the same horizon from different sides. She gestures toward you. He approaches slowly. Not cautious, respectful. You stand baby on your hip, watching him come closer. He unties the pouch and opens it. Inside seeds. Hundreds of them. Small, brown, lifeless looking, but not dead. He holds them out. Do you have earth, he asks. Not do you have space. Not do you want this. Just, is the ground ready? You nod. There's a patch, you say. Near the stump. The soil's soft. He smiles, then gets to work. No speech, no prayer, no declaration of intent. He kneels, digs a row with his fingers, drops in a seed, covers it, moves down the line, over and over. Others gather. No one stops him. A few begin helping. A boy breaks up clumps of soil. A woman fetches water in an old pot. The girl brings compost from behind the tree line, ashes, husks, pieces of last season's endings. The stranger doesn't direct. He plants, slow, methodical, reverent. When he finishes, he stands, wipes his palms, points to the ground. Here, he says, things will happen. Not might, not if we're lucky, just will. You don't ask where he came from, you don't ask his name. But before he leaves, he takes something from his belt and hands it to you. A tiny cloth satchel. Inside 5 seeds. Start somewhere no one believes in, he says. Especially there. Then he walks away the same way he came, in silence. Mainstream sources rarely mention agriculture during plague recovery. But fringe notes and letters suggest a quiet revolution, seeds, handed like heirlooms, gardens planted in graveyards, rows of beans stretching across burned-out courtyards. People didn't rebuild cities first. They planted food. You hold the satchel in your hand for a long time. The baby babbles something. His first sound in days that isn't a cough or a sigh. You hold up the seeds to him. He grabs one. You laugh. All right, you say. You plant that one. You pick the spot together just to the left of the fire pit. The soil's darker there, warmer. You dig a hole. You press the seed in. Cover it gently. Then you both pat the earth flat. You don't say anything over it. It doesn't need words, just time. The garden grows faster than it should. It starts with one green sprout near the fire pit, the one you and the baby planted together. Then 2 more. Then 5. Then a tangle of vines curling up a stick someone left poked into the ground for no reason but balance. No one says it aloud, but everyone watches it. By the end of the week, it has leaves the size of your palm. A child walks barefoot through the rows, gently brushing the stalks with his fingertips. The girl with ash in her hair adds stones to mark the corners of the patch. Someone else builds a little fence, not to keep anything out, but to say this is ours now. You sit near it most mornings, baby, in your lap, watching the sunlight warm the soil. He laughs now. Not just once. Often. Little bubbling bursts that tumble out when you tickle his chin, or when he sees a bird hop through the garden, or when the wind flips the edge of your cloak into his face. You hadn't realized how quiet the world had become until his laughter reopened it. You find yourself humming again, sometimes full songs, sometimes nonsense syllables, the kind of sounds you used to make when you were still someone's child. You don't even realize you're doing it until someone else joins in low harmony, almost a whisper. It's the girl. You both stop. You both smile. Then keep going. Fringe notes from plague-era journals mention a strange moment in recovery, not when food returned or shops reopened, but when people started singing again, softly, aimlessly. like their throats remembered something before their minds did. By mid-afternoon, a yellow flower appears on one of the plants. You show it to the baby. He touches it, carefully serious, deliberate, then looks up at you like he understands exactly what it means. Maybe he does. That evening someone calls for stew, not because there's a feast, not even because there's much to eat, just because warm things should be shared. They pass the pot, they pass the bread, they pass stories again. But this time not about what was lost. This time they tell of things found. A cat under the floorboards, a dry cellar no one knew existed, a comb, a bottle of ink, a way to speak without being afraid. You speak too. About the tower, the scribe, the page you filled, the child you didn't name until the fever broke. You say his name aloud, and they say it back, just once, soft, as if trying it on. The fire crackles, and you realize something unexpected. You're not waiting anymore. Not for safety, not for signs, not even for forgiveness. You're just here, living, still breathing, still warm, still planting, still singing, still. It begins with a question. The youngest child in the grove, maybe 5, maybe 6, sits beside you one morning, legs crossed, eyes full of that soft kind of curiosity, only found in those too new to remember grief. She watches you grind dried herbs into a bowl, the baby wobbling on unsteady legs nearby, chasing a pebble with intense focus. Then she asks, "Who did you lose?" You stop, not in shock, not in pain, just pause, because no one's asked you that in a long time. Not since the early days when loss clung to everyone like wet cloth, when names were whispered like curses or prayers. Now they've faded, not gone, just quiet. You look up. The girl waits. You set the bowl down. Then you begin. First the names that come easily: Thomas, Ellen, Marta, the priest who walked in circles, the boy with the coin you never returned, the woman who painted her own red cross, then others. Your cousin, the one who fled to the countryside and never wrote back, the old woman behind the wall who spoke to her dead husband in whispers, the baby's mother, whose name you never knew. You pause, then add her anyway. You list them not in order of closeness or pain, but in the order your memory delivers them, as if your mind is placing them like stones in a garden, carefully, with space to breathe. The girl listens without interrupting. When you finish, she asks, "Did you love them all?" You smile. "Some I didn't even know." "Then why remember?" You look toward the baby now, babbling at a beetle in the dirt, because someone should. She nods once, then stands, then walks away quietly, but not solemnly, just carrying something. You sit there longer than you meant to. Fringe writings describe a peculiar habit among survivors: name-speaking. They'd recite the names of the lost aloud at dawn or dusk, not in mourning but in defiance. Not why they died, just that they lived. You whisper the names again, this time to no one, this time for yourself. The wind catches a few, lets the rest fall gently around your feet. Later that evening, others gather around the fire. You don't plan to speak again, but you do. One name, then another. Others join in. It's not a chant, not a ceremony, just a list. A breathing list, like a song without melody. When it ends, no one claps, no one weeps, but someone stirs the fire, and you feel lighter. Not because you forgot, but because you didn't. It happens without fanfare. One day you look around the grove and realize you're still here, not passing through, not surviving, not waiting for something to change. You've stayed. The fire circle hasn't gone out in weeks. Someone always adds wood. Someone always stirs the stew. Someone always remembers the names. You're one of them now. The baby, no, not quite a baby anymore, walks. Unsteadily, with arms out for balance, feet wide, like a little sailor testing land. He giggles when he falls, then crawls toward whatever interests him next. A beetle, a stick, a cup, a shadow. He sleeps longer now. Breathes deeper. His fever hasn't returned. Neither has the fear. One morning you catch yourself laughing, not because something's funny, just because your hands are free. He was playing in the dirt, and you stepped back to fetch water, and halfway there you realized you weren't carrying him. And it felt okay. It felt right. You come back, of course. You always will. But you know now you could walk 10 steps away and return without the world unraveling. That's new. The girl with ash in her hair now braids it with wildflowers. The boy who once sharpened a spoon now carves birds into fence posts. The old man who never spoke sits with his back against a tree and hums. You hum with him sometimes. The seasons have shifted. The air smells different. Not of smoke, not of ash, of growth. The vines from the stranger's seeds have bloomed. Squash, some say. Others call it gourd. You just call it food. The earth yields now, not because it's forgotten the dead, but because it remembers the living. One evening you walk the perimeter of the grove. You trace the path with your fingertips. You find where the moss grows thickest, where the trees lean toward each other, where the firelight reaches and where it doesn't. You know this place now. Like breath, you whisper to the wind, "I didn't mean to stay." The wind doesn't answer. But your own voice does. You did. You sleep beside the fire that night, no longer clutching your pack, or waking at every sound. The child curls beside you, one hand tangled in your sleeve, one foot in the ashes. He smiles in his sleep. You do too. You dream of nothing, which somehow feels like peace. The world is quieter now. Not empty, not hollow, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after long rains when the leaves drip soft rhythms onto the soil and the wind has forgotten how to howl. The kind of quiet that doesn't need to be broken. You sit at the edge of the grove back against the same tree you once arrived under, child in your lap. His breath slow and warm against your chest. His head is heavier now. His dreams deeper. He sleeps like someone who knows he'll wake to the same place, the same arms. You watch the fire from here, still burning, still low, still tended. Around it people, not many, just enough, talking in soft tones, smiling in small ways. They laugh sometimes, and when they do, no one flinches. Above the stars blink awake, timid at first, then bold. You find the ones you know, then a few you don't. You don't name them, you just let them be. You close your eyes for a while, not to sleep, just to feel what it's like to rest without fear. The wind rustles the grass beside you. A frog croaks once. The air smells like earth and green things. Your hand rests on the child's back. Still breathing, still warm, still here. You know the road will open again someday. You'll rise, you'll walk, you'll carry stories, maybe seeds, maybe names, but not tonight. Tonight you stay, and so does he. So does the quiet, so does the fire. And for the first time since the bells stopped ringing, your last thought before sleep is not what if, it's thank you. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let everything else drift far, far away. End of script. Sweet dreams.